Chapter 551. The guards in Ordinary Balance's courtyard had been dismissed, but it was impossible for such a big club to not have any guards. However, this was not a problem for Tang Zheng. He still had the mysterious power of the witch tribe in his hands, which was more than enough to be a guard. There was probably no other club with such a strong security force. Under the leadership of Tian Chanzi, the witch tribe had already gained a foothold in the southwest neighbor. Since his identity had been exposed, the witch tribe had to slowly stand on the stage. Coincidentally, during the Chinese New Year, he finally got in touch with Tian Chanzi. After all, this was a modern society, and communication was very advanced. Both sides exchanged opinions, and Tian Chanzi immediately said that he would send some witch tribe warriors to Ordinary Balance. These witch tribe warriors had already adapted to modern life, so they would not have any problems in Ordinary Balance. As for the other matters in the club, Tang Zheng, as a hands-off manager, left them all to Lin Hu and the others. He was relieved, but some people were living a life worse than death. Qin Lao's wound had stopped bleeding. His injury was not serious, but he had lost a lot of blood. He was a little dizzy, his legs were weak, and his face was pale. At this moment, he was sitting in a mansion in Jade Sand City. Jade Sand City was a provincial capital city, and it was much more prosperous than Ordinary Balance City. He sat on the sofa without saying a word, and a few people carefully accompanied him. One of them was a middle-aged man with a square face and a fierce face. This man was Lei Ming, the leader of Jade Sand City's underground world, just like Huang San's position in Ordinary Balance. However, Lei Ming was after all a provincial capital city, so his influence was greater. This time, Qin Lao had allied with several underground forces, and Lei Ming was the biggest. Therefore, after he suffered a loss in Ordinary Balance, he rushed to Jade Sand City without stopping. To be honest, Qin Lao was still a little afraid that Tang Zheng would change his mind and take the opportunity to kill him. If that happened, he would definitely die even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms. So escaping to Lei Ming's territory was obviously much safer. He still hadn't reported the matter of the Ordinary Balance Monastery to Song Yu. That was because this was an extraordinary shame and humiliation for him. Although the Ordinary Balance Monastery wasn't that important to the Song family, it had still fallen into the hands of others. If others found out, they would definitely become a laughingstock. Qin Lao was hesitant. He wasn't willing to flee back to Beijing like this. If he did, he wouldn't be able to raise his head in the Song family. However, he couldn't think of a good way to take back Ordinary Balance Villa. After a while, Lei Ming finally couldn't bear it anymore. He said with righteous indignation, "Qin Lao, don't worry. He's just a kid who hasn't even grown hair yet. This time you've fallen into his trap. Next time we'll just have to find our way back." Qin Lao's eyebrows jumped. He was about to angrily say, "Do you think it'll be that easy to find our way back?" However, he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. He thoughtfully looked at Lei Ming and nodded. "With Boss Lei's words, then I'm relieved." Lei Ming was overjoyed. His actions had finally moved the other party. He hurriedly said, "Qin Lao, just watch. I'll definitely make this kid look good." "Haha, then what are you going to do? Doesn't he have a property in Ordinary Balance? We have a lot of people. We'll just directly smash his property and let him know the consequences of offending the Song family and you, Qin Lao." Lei Ming said as if it wasn't a big deal. Qin Lao sighed in his heart. He thought that the other party had some kind of trick up his sleeve, but it turned out that it was just a bunch of cheap tricks. They couldn't attack Tang Zheng's foundation at all. In the eyes of ordinary people, these so-called underground powers were so fierce that they did not dare to provoke them, but in Old Man Qin's eyes, they were too small. The young master's move was not very clever, but it could only give Tang Zheng a little bit of trouble. However, Qin Lao didn't attack Lei Ming's self-confidence. Instead, he encouraged him. "Oh, then I'll leave it to you." Lei Ming was overjoyed. He pointed at a young man sitting next to him and said, "Qin Lao, this is my son. I'll leave this matter to him. I guarantee that he'll do a good job." If Tang Zheng was here, he would definitely recognize this young man. This was the handsome young master who was slapped by Lan Yu in the shopping mall. His full name was Lei Jun. The handprint on Lei Jun's face had already disappeared, but the evil fire in his heart had nowhere to vent. That day, he was slapped in front of a big star. After the incident, he still couldn't find the culprit. This caused him to lose a lot of face. The big star that he originally had hopes of winning over flew away just like that. It was too late for regrets. Since his old man gave him such an important task, then he would use this person to vent his anger and relieve the evil fire in his heart. Lei Jun looked at Qin Lao and squeezed out a smile, saying, "Qin Lao, please rest assured. I will definitely not disappoint you and complete the task." Qin Lao nodded his head in approval. But Qin Lao didn't place his hopes on this unreliable father and son pair. Instead, he went to find another person. In this province, only he had the authority to help him take back the ordinary balanced courtyard. Tang Zheng didn't know about Qin Lao's countermeasures. The sky was already dark. Just as he returned to his house, he was stopped by two people downstairs. Lan Yu and Wu's faces were calm. After seeing Tang Zheng, Lan Yu squeezed out a smile with great difficulty and said, "Little Zheng, I have to go." Tang Zheng's eyes flashed with a strange light. He thought that Lan Yu wanted to fight a long battle to the death. He didn't think that he would compromise so quickly. He was secretly happy and nodded his head without batting an eyelid. "Little Zheng, I originally thought that I could stay by your side to make up for the mistakes and regrets of these years. I didn't think that the heavens would make a fool of me. I have no choice but to leave." Lan Yu's expression was lost as he bitterly said, "If you have something to do, then go do it." Tang Zheng's heart couldn't help but soften. Although this period of time was short, he had seen everything that Lan Yu had done. However, it was impossible for him to forgive her just like that. In the future, you have to take good care of yourself. Don't put yourself in danger. Calm down when you encounter trouble. Don't be merciful to your enemies. Otherwise, the one who will be hurt in the end will be you or your family. Lan Yu began to nag endlessly, completely like a mother who was about to leave to her son. "I know," Tang Zheng said indifferently. Seeing Master's wife's heartbroken appearance, Wu fiercely glared at Tang Zheng and said unjustly, "Tang Zheng, do you know that Master's wife did this for your safety? Even Master and the martial sect broke off because of you, do you know?" Tang Zheng was surprised and asked curiously, "The martial sect leader and the martial sect broke off?" "Yes, it's all because of you. Now it's all a mess." "How could it be because of me?" Tang Zheng was confused, but he was also shocked by this news. As one of the three mysterious organizations, if the position of sect leader was changed, it would definitely cause a huge reaction from all sides. Who knows, it might even cause a storm, but how could this have anything to do with him? Seeing his blank expression, her martial chi came out of nowhere. Her master and mistress had done so much for him, yet he was completely unaware of it. Furthermore, he did not appreciate their kindness. It really angered her to death. She did not care that her mistress was hinting at her with her eyes and directly said, "Of course it's because of you. Because you are Master's son, and because you have the identity of a cultivator, how could the martial sect tolerate the sect master's son being a cultivator? Thus, for you, the sect master broke off relations with the two elders. As a result, they allied with the Li Palace's palace master and stripped him of his position as sect master. Tell me, if this isn't because of you, who else could it be?" Seeing that Marshall had directly ignored his gaze, Lan Yu hurriedly pulled Marshall back, and said to Tang Zheng with a forced smile, "Little Zheng, don't listen to her nonsense. All of this is not because of you, it's just a scheme hatched by others, it has nothing to do with you." Tang Zheng was not an idiot. Of course he understood that what Wu said was the truth. He had actually affected the position of the martial sect leader, and that person had broken off relations with the martial sect because of him. This was indeed something that he did not expect. He had always thought that that person was drunk with power. Back then, in order to protect the position of sect leader, he had only watched as he was almost killed by others without doing anything. Therefore, Tang Zheng had always hated him. But now that he heard that person give up everything for him, it completely broke the image of that person in Tang Zheng's eyes. For a moment, Tang Zheng was at a loss for what to do. "Mistress, I want to say it today. Maybe you guys were wrong back then, but now that you guys have done so much for him, he still has such a stinky face every day. Who exactly is he trying to show it to? Tang Zheng, don't you usually brag about being fair and upright? You can put yourself in other people's shoes, but can't you put yourself in the shoes of master and mistress? If you were in their position, what would you do?" "At least I won't abandon my own child," Tang Zheng blurted out. This was the eternal pain in his heart. Originally, the wound had already formed a scar, but because of the appearance of Lan Yu and Wu Junshan, the wound was torn open once again, dripping with blood. When Lan Yu heard this, his face turned as pale as paper. He trembled and said, "Yes, it was our fault back then. I don't have the qualifications to beg for your forgiveness." Seeing her like this, Tang Zheng couldn't bear it, but he stubbornly refused to admit his mistake. Seeing that, Wu scolded loudly, "Tang Zheng, you bastard! Do you know how cruel it is to treat mistress like this?" "Since you already know about the matter of the martial organization, then I still have to remind you that there is another mysterious power behind the elders and the Li Palace. You must be careful. I will also do my best to investigate and see who wants to deal with my child behind this. I will definitely not let my child be threatened again," Lan Yu said resolutely and decisively. Hearing these sonorous and powerful words filled with killing intent, Tang Zheng felt a warm current flow through his head. Just as he was about to apologize, Lan Yu's figure disappeared in a flash. The moment she turned around, Tang Zheng could clearly see a crystal-clear light flashing in her eyes. Seeing this scene, Wu Qi gasped for breath. He stomped his feet hatefully and said, "You treat them like this, but they still treat you well without any complaints or regrets. Are you a blockhead? You're completely obedient to your women, and you're completely devoted to them. Don't tell me you're not willing to treat them better?" Chapter 552. On the first day of the new year, Linger and AI Me left the ordinary balance and started the star creation project step by step according to the plan. Marshall came one after another and still occupied Tang Zheng's bedroom. Moreover, she did not have a good expression as she gnashed her teeth, wishing that she could beat up Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng originally did not want to bring along this burden, but he knew that his previous actions were somewhat inappropriate, so even if Marshall was resentful, he did not fight back. In any case, it was not like Marshall had not been by his side before, so he had already adapted to this kind of life. However, the old man was somewhat disappointed with Lan Yu's departure. He originally thought that this mother and son pair would improve their relationship, but it seemed that the road ahead was long and not easy. On the second day of the new year, Tang Zheng did not stay idle as he came to Feng Shishir's house early. This was because yesterday, Feng Shishir had told his parents that she wanted to have a meal with him. The only regrettable thing was that Marshall, this burden, did not leave. No matter how he threatened her, she did not buy it. In the end, he had no choice but to compromise. Marshall did this on purpose. Tang Zheng dared to treat his master and mistress like that, so she could not let him do as he wished. She was very happy to add a bit of pressure to his heart. Standing at the door, Marshall glanced at his empty hands, curled her lips and said, "It's the new year and you don't even know that I brought some gifts." Tang Zheng shrugged his shoulders and gave a nonchalant smile. The door opened and Feng Shishir was pleasantly surprised as she stood at the door and called out, "Quickly come in." Suddenly, her face stiffened as she saw Marshall behind Tang Zheng and awkwardly said, "You also came." "If he wants to come, I can't do anything about it," Tang Zheng helplessly said. Feng Shishir smiled and said, "No problem, it's the new year. Everyone should gather together. The more the merrier." However, Shi Mengqin clearly did not have any thoughts of livening things up with more people. When she saw Wu Ho, her expression instantly changed. She thought in her heart, "Just what is this Tang Zheng up to? He even brought a girl to my house. Is he really trying to anger me?" When she saw that Tang Zheng was empty-handed, her face darkened. How could he not bring any gifts on New Year's Day? Was this the attitude of a junior? He didn't even put her in his eyes. Even though Shi Mengqin already knew that Tang Zheng's background was not simple, it was also because of this that she took the initiative to invite Tang Zheng to her home as a guest. Her attitude towards Tang Zheng was unpredictable. Every time she found him pleasing to the eye, Tang Zheng would make some trouble for her. But after that, he would give her a big surprise. She had no choice but to adjust her attitude, which made her very tired. Feng Chonghua, on the other hand, was much calmer. He didn't have a strong impression of Tang Zheng, although Tang Zheng had many good points and flaws. Even though Shi Mengqin's expression was not good, Tang Zheng still smiled and said, "Auntie, Happy New Year." Shi Mengqin was expressionless as she turned around to leave. "Auntie, this is my New Year's gift to you. It's just a small token of my respect." Tang Zheng's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast as he hurriedly took out a porcelain bottle from his pocket. Shi Mengqin raised her foot but retracted it. She curiously looked at the porcelain bottle and said, "Just come, why bring a gift?" However, she silently cursed in her heart. It's just a small porcelain bottle. It doesn't seem to be anything high grade. What good can it be? She had a face of disappointment and was about to place it to the side. Feng Shishir saw through her mother's thoughts and hurriedly asked, "Tang Zheng, what's inside?" She knew that Tang Zheng's gift was definitely not ordinary, so she purposely asked to give her boyfriend some face. Pill. Pill? Tang Zheng, what is the meaning of this? Giving me medicine on New Year's Day, are you trying to curse me to death? Shi Mengqin heard this and immediately flipped out. Feng Shishir revealed an awkward expression as she glared at Tang Zheng. In her heart she was saying how could he be so careless as to give her such a thing. However, she hurriedly explained for her boyfriend, "Mom, he definitely didn't mean it that way. He is just this careless, so please don't mind him." "Auntie, this is not a normal pill. It is a pill refined by the king of medicine that can improve one's physique, retain one's youth, and prolong one's life," Tang Zheng explained. This was indeed refined by the king of medicine. When he first saw Tang Zheng refine the life-continuing pill, he pondered over it for a period of time before finally coming up with this pill. Of course, this pill did not have as good of an effect as the life-continuing pill, but it did not lack many precious ingredients and special refining methods. It really did have the effects that Tang Zheng said it had. Hearing the king of medicine's name, Shi Mengqin and Feng Chonggua's expressions slightly changed. Originally, they had met the king of medicine several times in the hospital. Afterwards, Feng Chonggua took this matter to heart and specially investigated the king of medicine. Only then did he know that the king of medicine actually had such a great reputation. This kind of expert was not someone they had the opportunity to come into contact with. Now that this small porcelain bottle actually contained a pill personally refined by the king of medicine, it was simply a priceless treasure. Shi Mengqin originally felt that she was unlucky, but at this moment her expression immediately changed. Unable to contain her joy, she asked, "Was it really refined by the king of medicine?" "This is a new pill refined by him. Currently, there is only this small bottle in your hands and no one else has it," Tang Zheng calmly said. "There's only one bottle in the world?" Shi Mengqin's eyes widened and even Feng Chonggua's face was filled with surprise and joy. He thought to himself that he had still underestimated the value of this pill. However, since there was only one bottle in the world and it was in Tang Zheng's hands, then how good was the relationship between Tang Zheng and the king of medicine? Otherwise, why would the king of medicine give such an important pill to him? Even though Feng Chonggua always knew that Tang Zheng would give him a surprise from time to time, he did not think that the surprise this time would be so big. Shi Mengqin hurriedly put it into her bosom as if she was afraid that Tang Zheng would go back on his word. This caused Feng Shishir to helplessly roll her eyes. Her mother was sometimes too snobbish, causing her to feel helpless. Tang Zheng already knew of Shi Mengqin's nature and did not mind. He then took out a jade bracelet and a jade guanyin and said, "This jade bracelet is prepared for auntie and this jade guanyin is prepared for uncle." Now that Tang Zheng had money, the jade items he bought would not be as low-end as before. These two jade items were worth several 100,000 each, and even in Shi Mengqin's eyes, they could be considered a decent gift. The contrast between Tang Zheng's before and after was too big, causing Shi Mengqin to be at a loss. She thought to herself that he could not have taken out the gifts earlier. This kind of contrast between before and after really made her heart unable to take it. Seeing her parents treat these two gifts as normal jade items, Feng Shishir hurriedly explained, "Dad, Mom, you must not look down on these two gifts. Their value is not any less than that bottle of pills. Don't joke around. It's only two jade items. How could they be compared to this kind of priceless treasure?" Shi Mengqin disagreed. "It's true. These two items are not normal jade items. They have been refined using a special method, so they have a defensive effect. If someone attacks the wearer, the jade item will automatically cancel out the attack and protect the wearer." Shi Mengqin and Feng Chonggua looked at each other in dismay as they both thought of the same thing, the temple's magical equipment. Many rich people like to go to the temple to have their magical equipment consecrated by a great master. They believe that magical equipment can eliminate disasters, but many people understand that this is only a psychological effect. No one would actually be able to save their life because of this little toy. Hearing their daughter's words, they could not help but feel that their daughter was exaggerating. Seeing that they did not believe her, Feng Shishir anxiously said, "This is absolutely true. You must believe it." Tang Zheng spent a great deal of effort to refine these. He refined them. Tang Zheng smiled and nodded his head. The two of them were not clear on matters regarding cultivators and did not know Tang Zheng's true identity. Half believing and half doubting, they said, "Okay, we believe you. You must remember to wear them on your body at all times," Feng Shesher warned. Tang Zheng did not explain any further. Although the two of them clearly did not believe in this kind of miraculous use, they placed more of their attention on the small bottle of pills. Shi Mengqin asked for the details of how to use the pills and impatiently ran back to her room. After this interruption, the originally awkward atmosphere became joyous and harmonious. Feng Shesher quietly said to Tang Zheng, "Mom locked the pills in the safe as if she was afraid someone would steal them." Tang Zheng laughed involuntarily as he did not take these pills seriously and only took them out on a whim. However, this gave him an idea. Since he wanted to use the king of medicine as a gimmick to set up a pharmaceutical company, then these pills could be pushed into the market. There was no need to doubt the effects of these pills and they would definitely be popular. This was equivalent to having another source of income. Not long after, a table of delicacies was placed on the table. The few of them sat together and Feng Chonghua took the initiative to ask Tang Zheng to drink a few cups. Tang Zheng did not refuse and the two of them drank to their heart's content. Feng Chonghua excitedly asked, "Little Zheng, after the previous storm, what do you plan to do in the future?" "Reinvigorate the flag and drum, become bigger and stronger." Tang Zheng simply said 8 words. Feng Chonghua wrinkled his eyebrows and said, "This will not be easy. Where there is a will, there is a way." Tang Zheng faintly smiled, full of confidence. Feng Chonghua was suddenly startled as he was infected by Tang Zheng's strong confidence, and could not help but feel ashamed of his own inferiority. He was implicated by Tang Zheng and during the Dragon Group storm last time, several of his real estate projects were stopped. Thus, many of his business partners suddenly withdrew their investments, causing his capital chain to break. Although he was not bankrupt, he had no choice but to part with his treasures and stop many of his real estate projects. This year, he did not have a good new year. When he was alone, he would often frown and sigh. Now he did not have a place to raise funds and as time passed, his situation would only worsen. However, he was at his wit's end and could not find a breakthrough. "What are you planning to do?" Feng Chonghua casually asked. Tang Zheng did not hide anything and told him his business plan. Gradually, Feng Chonggua's face became more and more serious and finally became shocked. The wine cup in his hand tilted and he did not even notice the wine spilling on his clothes. Chapter 553. Feng Shesher, on the other hand, did not feel shocked as she looked at Tang Zheng in high spirits. The feeling of being in high spirits was extremely handsome. After Tang Zheng finished speaking, Feng Chonghua and Shi Mengqin fell into a state of shock and only came back to their senses after a while. Feng Chonghua asked in disbelief, "Tang Zheng, do you know how much money you need to invest in this business plan?" "It definitely won't be a small amount, but I don't have that much money right now." Shi Mengqin swallowed her saliva and said, "Young man, don't bite off more than you can chew. This business plan is not something that can be played with just a few million or even tens of millions." Tang Zheng nodded his head in agreement. "Auntie is right, so I prepared an initial investment of over 10 billion. "What?" The husband and wife seemed to have springs under their butts as they both jumped up from the sofa and exclaimed in unison. 10 billion, Tang Zheng, don't joke around. Shi Mengqin frowned and criticized, "Young man, you can't bite off more than you can chew. Even more so, you can't carelessly boast as it has no practical use." She thought in her heart that this was a joke. "Did you think your family printed money? 10 billion, not $100, how could it be so easy to raise?" Feng Chonghua had worked hard for half his life to amass a few hundred million, and this was after adding in the fixed assets. Even if she was beaten to death, she would not believe that Tang Zheng, who was still living in a small broken house half a year ago, would have over 10 billion. This was just like a lunatic's dream. Feng Chonghua nodded his head in agreement with his wife's words and sincerely said, "I know you have great ambitions and this is very hard to come by, but the road must be walked step by step so that you won't fall." Tang Zheng completely agreed with his advice and said, "Uncle and auntie are both right, so this 10 billion is just an initial investment. Afterwards, we will look at the results and if the results are good, we will add more in the future. Moreover, after investing this 10 billion,
There will be quite a bit of profit and it should be enough to smoothly carry out this business plan.
Didn't I tell you to stop joking around? Is there any meaning in bragging like this? Shi Mengqin angrily reprimanded. Feng Shishir also didn't know much about Tang Zheng's specific situation. She hurriedly signaled him with her eyes, took her mother's arm, and advised, "Mom, don't do business. Tang Zheng's idea is still very good. Even if his idea is good, he can't say it like that. Does he really think that money floats down from the sky?" Shi Mengqin complained. Tang Zheng shrugged and said, "The money didn't come from nowhere. I found a way to earn it. I believe you will see the results soon." Shi Mengqin was about to retort a few more times when she saw her husband's expression change. Feng Chonghua was not a stupid person, and seeing Tang Zheng's solemn vow, after careful consideration, he could not help but half believe and half doubt. "Tang Zheng, are you serious?" "Of course it's true. Why would I lie to you?" Feng Chonghua solemnly asked. "Then where did you get the money?" "I auctioned off a few things to raise the money. Around 10 billion, I have already given it to someone else to operate," Tang Zheng casually said. His tone was very relaxed, as if it was not 10 billion but only 100 yuan. Even though Feng Chonghua could be considered a millionaire, in the face of such a large amount of money, he could not remain so calm. "What did you auction off for it to be worth so much money?" Shi Mengqin rushed to ask. She also gradually realized that Tang Zheng didn't seem to be spouting nonsense, but she also found it hard to believe. Because this meant that Tang Zheng, who she originally thought was a pauper, was much richer than her family. He was simply a rich husband. "Just a few small things," Tang Zheng half-heartedly said. Since even the ghost realm noticed the matter of the life-continuing pill, then it would be best if this matter did not spread. Seeing that Tang Zheng was not willing to speak in detail, Feng Chonghua did not force him.
However, his heart was already in turmoil as he pondered just what could be worth such a large amount of money.
Shi Mengqin's eyes began to shine as she stared at Tang Zheng as if she was staring at a gold ingot. She impatiently asked, "You said that you gave this money to someone else to operate. How can you be so careless? With such a large amount of money, do you think that other people won't run away with it?" Tang Zheng confidently said, "Of course not, I trust them. With such a large amount of money, how could a normal person bear it? Even if you trusted them before, you cannot expect to trust them in the future. This is not good. This money must be managed by someone close to you," Shi Mengqin said without stopping. "I am busy with school and other matters. I don't have time to manage business matters. Moreover, this is not something I am good at, so I can't find anyone else."
"Why can't you find anyone?"
Shi Mengqin suddenly had an idea as she looked at her husband and said, "That's right, isn't your uncle the most suitable person?" Feng Chonghua was stunned as his heart fiercely jumped. If he was allowed to manage this money, then he really would be moved. This amount of money was bigger than any of his previous business plans. As a businessman, participating in such a large business plan would undoubtedly give him a sense of accomplishment. In addition, his company was already in a financial crisis. If he could cooperate with Tang Zheng's company, then he would be able to rise from the dead.
However, Feng Chonghua still had his own reservations and could not be overjoyed after hearing these words. He purposely glared at his wife and complained, "This is his money, so of course he is the one making the decision.
Moreover, since he gave it to someone else, then he must have trusted them. If he goes back on his words like this, then what will others think of him?" "That's right, little Zheng. Who did you give this money to?" "Sister Mu, Lin Hu and Fire Phoenix." Feng Chonghua was not unfamiliar with Lin Hu and Fire Phoenix. He also knew that these people from the underworld had pledged their allegiance to Tang Zheng.
However, he did not know much about this Sister Mu.
"Who is this Mu?"
"Mu Hongyan."
"Mu Hongyan?"
Feng Chonghua exclaimed and asked in bewilderment, "Which Mu Hongyan is it?"
"So she works for Dianan's Long family."
"Dianan's Long family's Mu Hongyan?"
Feng Chonghua sucked in a breath of cold air. "It's actually her. Why did you dig her out? She is a famous business genius. At such a young age, she has been in charge of the Long family's huge business empire. These past few months, she has not shown her face. There are rumors that she and the Long family have fallen out. I never thought that she would actually work for you." This was more of a shock to Feng Chonghua than the 10 billion yuan investment. After all, Mu Hongyan was not someone who could be invited with money. She was the daughter-in-law of Dianan's Long family. Immediately, Feng Chonghua stared at Tang Zhang as if he wanted to completely see through him. However, no matter how he looked, other than his temperament being completely different from before, there was nothing special about him. Tang Zhang could understand the other's shock. He faintly smiled and said, "It's just a coincidence." Shi Mengqin did not understand Mu Hongyan. Moreover, hearing her husband praise another woman, she was somewhat unhappy in her heart and said, "What's the use of being strong? After all, she is an outsider. Moreover, you are also not bad. How can you feel ashamed?"
Feng Chonghua solemnly stared at his wife and said, "My little bit of ability is not worth mentioning in the eyes of the other party."
There is no way to compare them. If you let others hear this, you will only become a joke. Do you understand? Shi Mengqin had never seen her husband praise someone so much. She could not help but understand that this woman must have real ability. She nodded her head and did not refute. With her help, you can indeed sit back and relax. Feng Chonghua sighed, but he was somewhat disappointed. If he could participate in Tang Zheng's plan, then it would indeed be something to be excited about. However, now that there was Mu Hongyan, he was embarrassed to take the initiative to volunteer. After all, he was an elder. If he took the initiative to volunteer to a junior, he would not be able to wipe away his face. Tang Zheng's eyes flashed as he saw through the other's thoughts and said, "Uncle, if you are interested, then come and help me." "All right." Feng Chonggua's eyes lit up as he blurted out. However, he instantly realized that he had lost his composure and was incomparably embarrassed. Tang Zhang, however, did not treat it as a big deal and said, "With you participating, then I am even more relieved. It is truly my fortune." Feng Chonghua gave a gratified smile. This Tang Zhang really knew how to do things, and even more so, he was able to ease his embarrassment with a single sentence. Shi Mengqin, on the other hand, was somewhat resentful. How did her husband become Tang Zheng's subordinate in the blink of an eye? Wasn't this a mess? In any case, we will be a family in the future. Moreover, our business plan also includes real estate. Uncle, why don't you cooperate with your real estate company and mine? Everyone can develop together and earn money together. As for the specific situation, you have to discuss it with Sister Mu. Feng Chonghua truly felt grateful to the point of tears. This was truly a case of someone handing him a pillow when he wanted to sleep. Tang Zheng's words had reached the bottom of his heart and completely solved his urgent situation. Seeing her boyfriend and father happily chatting, Feng Shishir was also incomparably happy. This way, the barrier between her and Tang Zhang would be completely removed. Only Marshall did not say a word. He coldly looked at Tang Zhang and silently cursed. "You can be so good to people. Why can't you be a little better to master and mistress?" Humph, ingrate. Marshall was originally prepared to be a burden to cause trouble for Tang Zhang, but he did not expect that the two people of the Feng family would be so easy to coax. After seeing so much money, they did not have any principles and were directly bought over by Tang Zhang. This meal was enjoyed by both the guests and the host. Shi Mengqin's face lit up with joy and a smile blossomed on her face. Feng Chonghua and Tang Zhang drank to their heart's content. In the end, they became drunk and hugged Tang Zheng's shoulders. They almost called out to the two brothers, but in the end, Shi Mengqin chased them back to their room to sleep. When Tang Zhang entered Feng Shishir's room, Shi Mengqin pretended not to see and allowed the young couple to kiss each other inside. Of course, this was still broad daylight and there were people outside. They could not do such intimate actions without restraint. In the end, Tang Zheng's evil fire was ignited and he was suspended in the air to be tortured. Seeing that it was already late, in order to avoid any mishaps, Tang Zhang could only bid farewell and return home. Marshall glanced at the ugly bulge on his pants and finally laughed. Having figured this out, Tang Zhang couldn't wait to consume another Dragon Yuan pill. Most of the energy just now was used to temper his bones, which meant that the energy contained in the new Dragon Yuan Dan was much smaller and was within his control. Whoosh! The energy of the Dragon Yuan pill continued to temper the bones. The metallic luster on the bones turned from light to dark and finally turned golden. When all the bones in his body had been tempered once, he felt that his body had become countless of times stronger. The chaotic Vajra spell had also increased by a level, reaching the second level. iron bones. Now, not only could ordinary external forces not harm his skin, they could not even do anything to his bones. His resistance to attacks had increased exponentially. He really wanted to find someone to stab him with a sword to test his body's resistance. Since there's a ready-made candidate, I'll use her to test my chaotic Vajra spell. She also hates me to the core, so I'll give her this chance to vent her anger. He flipped over and stood up, knocking on Wu's door.
Who?
The armed police asked cautiously.
Me, are you not asleep yet?
What's the matter? Since you haven't slept yet, get up. I have something to talk to you about. Tang Jing said. Not long later, Wu opened the door and walked out, looking suspiciously at the energetic Tang Zhang, especially since there was still a layer of metallic luster on his skin, which was obviously not there before. Wu looked at him in surprise and asked, "What the hell are you doing now?" "I know you're very angry with me. I'm a magnanimous person, so I'll give you a chance to vent your anger," Tang Zhang said while beaming. Wu looked at him suspiciously, not knowing what he meant by that. Seeing that he did not understand, Tang Zhang explained, "Let's find a place to spar. I won't retaliate, and will let you attack me." Wu Xiaoqi raised her eyebrows. She felt that his request, which was almost masochistic, was inconceivable, but she immediately felt relieved. "Since you took the initiative to be cheap, then don't blame me." "All right, where are we going?"
Let's go downstairs.
Tang Zhang walked to the window and jumped down from the 10-story building. He was like a big bird, hiding in the night and not being discovered by anyone. After he landed more than 10 meters, the tip of his foot suddenly tapped on the wall, and his falling speed increased by a bit. Seeing that he was about to land on the ground, the tip of his foot tapped on the windowsill of a house, removing most of the force. He landed steadily, lifting heavy as if it was light, and did not make the slightest sound. Wu followed closely behind like a shadow and landed on the ground. However, she did not lift heavy as if it was light, and made quite a bit of noise when she landed. Tang Zhang pointed to a small forest next to the district and flew over. Only an afterimage could be seen flashing across the night sky. He flipped over the wall of the district and landed in the small forest. Wu's face was strange because she knew that she was unable to reach Tang Zhang's level. She felt helpless and unreconciled with his speed of improvement. Back then, her cultivation was much higher than his. How could she be inferior to him now? She could not help but feel a sense of powerlessness and frustration in her heart, but in an instant, her eyes became firm and she chased after him. This time, he had to give Tang Jing a good look and vent his anger for his master and mistress. The night was like water, and the small forest was pitch black. Only the occasional bit of moonlight that penetrated through the clouds allowed people to clearly distinguish their surroundings. The two of them had outstanding eyesight and were not affected by the darkness. They stood facing each other. "Use this blade to attack me. I won't fight back," Tang Zhang said as he handed Wu a large blade. Wu weighed the large blade in his hand. It was indeed a sharp blade that shone with a cold light. She looked at him in bewilderment and asked again, "You really want me to attack you? If you pass this village, you won't have this shop anymore. If you want to attack me in the future, it won't be easy." Tang Zhang provoked. "Since you're asking for trouble, then I'll help you." Wu snorted, and with a whoosh, the broadsword slashed towards Tang Zhang's chest. Bang! Tang Zhang was forced back by the strong force. A crack appeared on his jacket, and his slightly golden skin was revealed. However, there was no blood, nor was there a wound. Marshall looked at this scene in shock. She had only used 30% of her strength in this slash, but she did not expect Tang Zhang to not resist at all. After eating the slash, he was completely unharmed. Wu also knew that there were some people in the martial arts world who practiced martial arts and boasted that they had copper skin and iron bones. However, she knew that many people were just randomly bragging. If they really slashed with a large blade, they would still have to dodge. Furthermore, if they were not killed, they would still lose half their lives. However, Tang Zhang was obviously different from those fake masters. He really used his body to resist the blade. "No matter what kind of martial arts you cultivate, eat my second blade. Let's see if you will still be unscathed." Wu rushed forward a few steps and chopped down with the broadsword. The broadsword light lit up with a demonic red light in the darkness. Tang Zhang's pupils constricted as he recognized that this was the mental cultivation method of the roaring flame blade. Normally, her hands would be used as a blade, but at this moment, Her inner strength was completely attached to the blade.
It was as if the blade was burning, and it was much more powerful than the broadsword itself.
Tang Zheng did not retreat. He bent his knee backwards and supported his body.
Seeing the burning broadsword approaching, he puffed out his chest. Bang!
Tang Zheng slid backwards, creating a gully on the ground. In the end, he broke a tree and fell to the ground with a loud bang. Wu was startled. This time, she had used 90% of her strength.
The power of this blade was enough to split open stones. Only then did she suddenly remember that she had used such a ruthless blade out of anger.
Would Tang Zheng be split in half by him? If that was really the case, then she would not be able to answer to her master and mistress.
She threw away the broadsword and hurriedly rushed over, crying out in shock. Tang Zheng, how are you?
Tang Zheng laid flat on the ground. The taste of this blade was not good at all. A bright red mark appeared on his chest.
His clothes had been completely torn apart by the broadsword, revealing his hard chest.
Fortunately, there was no blood, and it did not cut through his skin.
Wu looked at this scene with a dumbstruck expression and said, I have such a powerful blade, yet you are still safe and sound?
She had always been confident in her own strength, but when she saw Tang Zheng's heaven-defying ability to resist attacks, she could not help but feel a deep sense of powerlessness. Tang Zheng did not look as good as he looked on the surface. Although he had copper skin and iron bones, his body still felt pain. After withstanding such a powerful attack, the muscles on his chest were almost torn apart, and the pain of his bones falling apart almost caused him to collapse. At this moment, the innate qi crazily surged in his meridians, trying to calm the heart-wrenching pain. The energy of the dragon Yuan Dan that had not been completely refined also became restless, fusing with the surging innate qi, turning into a wild horse that recklessly galloped in his meridians. Gradually, his body became incomparably hot, like a large furnace. His skin, which was originally suffused with a metallic luster, turned fiery red, and his entire body seemed to be on fire. Damn, this is bad. I still underestimated the energy of the dragon Yuan Dan. I originally thought that there would be no problems after tempering my bones, but I didn't expect that the remaining energy would still be so powerful. Taking advantage of my weakness, it actually detonated my pure yang energy. Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. He had underestimated his opponent too much, especially during this period of time when the pure yang energy was extremely quiet, causing him to overlook this fatal flaw. This time, the pure yang energy had exploded. What should he do? This was not a joke. He already felt that his body was so hot that he could not stand it anymore. The dew on the grass around him was evaporated by his heat. Hey, what's wrong with you? You were the one who told me to attack you, so you can't blame me, Marshall said. He supported himself with both hands on the ground and stood up with great difficulty. He clenched his teeth and walked into the small district without saying a word. However, the wall that he could walk on as if it was flat ground had now become an insurmountable mountain that he could not cross. If you want to go home, I'll take you back. Marshall supported him in panic, and with a tap of her toes, she was about to jump into the small district. However, Tang Zheng smelled a fragrance at the tip of his nose, and an unending stream of purine energy was transmitted from between the two's skin. It was like a drug addict who had encountered drugs, and his wolf was instantly submerged. His entire body became incomparably hot, and his hands immediately hugged her slender waist. It was unknown where he got the strength from, but he grabbed Marshall's clothes and tore them apart. With a ripping sound, Marshall's chest was torn open, and her snow-white skin was exposed. Immediately, Tang Zheng's eyes turned red, and like a wild beast, he pounced forward. Marshall only had time to scream before she was pushed to the ground. Tang Zheng, you hooligan, you're courting death. Marshall's palm slapped his shoulder, but he was completely unaware of it. He only wanted to rub each other into the other's body. Moreover, his entire body was burning hot, like a branding iron. Chapter 555. Marshall finally understood Tang Zheng's situation and stopped trying to push him away. She remembered her master's instructions. Staying by Tang Zheng's side was to prevent the eruption of pure yang energy. Now, wasn't it time for her to use her skills? Recalling the charming scene in the 10,000 huge mountains, her heart skipped a beat as a hot and dry feeling assaulted her heart. Puff! With the sound of silk tearing, Marshall's clothes were torn open again. The white scenery immediately entered Tang Zheng's eyes, causing his blood to boil. He increased the strength in his hands and firmly fixed Marshall in place. Marshall bit her lips, hesitated for a moment, and finally gave up resisting. The increasingly strong feeling in her heart caused her entire body to go limp. With a strong push from Tang Zheng, she was completely lying on the ground, her clothes tattered, and the scenery was half covered and half exposed. However, she did not feel cold because Tang Zheng was like a big furnace, causing the surrounding air to heat up. Moreover, no one came to this small forest in the middle of the cold night. She opened her eyes and allowed him to do whatever he wanted. Last time, Tang Zheng fell into a coma, so she took the initiative. This time, Tang Zheng fell into madness but did not faint, giving her a completely different feeling. That strong beast-like masculine aura caused her breathing to involuntarily quicken. Her cheeks flushed red like a ripe apple. Not long after, the two naked figures rolled on the ground, hugging each other tightly, as if they wanted to completely merge into each other's bodies. Marshall could not help but gently gasp for breath, adding a different kind of scenery to the small forest. The battle continued for a long time. Tang Zheng's bravery was beyond Marshall's imagination. When she could not take it anymore and begged for mercy, Tang Zheng did not seem to hear it. However, she felt his body temperature dropping and the fiery red color on his skin dimming bit by bit. Marshall clenched his teeth and stared at him bitterly, thinking, "If I didn't want to save you, why would I be bullied like this? You hooligan bastard." Ah! Suddenly, everything returned to normal. Marshall laid on the ground, breathing out like orchids. Her entire body was sore and weak, without a trace of strength. Her skin had a delicate and beautiful crimson color. Tang Zheng gasped for breath as he lay on her chest, dripping with sweat. His skin had already returned to normal, and his fiery red eyes gradually regained their calm. He slowly lowered his head and saw the beauty beneath him. Suddenly, it was as if a basin of cold water had been poured over him. He shivered. He had actually done that to her and it was by force. Holy sh*t, the pure yang energy is erupting. Why am I such a beast? He wanted to cry but had no tears. This damned pure yang energy had erupted without any warning. He had done this completely out of instinct. Although he had silently cursed during the day that he wanted to break into Marshall's room and force himself on her, now that it had really happened, she was at a loss for what to do. With Marshall's temper, wouldn't he be dead for sure? She would castrate him first, then peel off his skin and pull out his tendons. He hurriedly crawled up from her body and subconsciously placed his hands on her chest. Immediately, two breathtaking softness fell into his palms, causing his heart to tremble. Wu Jiao let out a cry as her eyes widened. Tang Zheng hurriedly explained, "I'm sorry, this was not intentional. I had no intention of doing it just now. It was completely out of instinct to save myself." Seeing him lose his head out of fear, Marshall also calmed down. She once again returned to her ice-cold appearance and said, "You yourself said it was instinct. It can be seen how bad your nature is." Tang Zheng did not care about these words and said, "I promise there will never be a next time." As the saying goes, things do not happen more than 3 times. He had already done it with her twice. If there really was a third time, he really did not dare to imagine what it would be like. Marshall did not believe his promise. However, seeing him lose his composure, a thought appeared in her mind. It seems that he is quite cute like this. But she immediately threw this absurd thought out of her mind. She only had sex with him because of Master's orders. There is absolutely no other reason. Just now, my situation was very dangerous. After all, you saved me. You have saved my life. If you have any requests, I will definitely satisfy them. Since things had already come to this, he could only do his best to make up for it. Tang Zheng was not the kind of person who would pull up his pants and not admit it. That kind of man was too irresponsible and was no different from an animal. Marshall had an idea and asked, "You really want me to make a request?" Tang Zheng nodded his head heavily. "Of course." "All right, forgive Master and Mistress," Marshall said. "Forgive them?" Tang Zheng was startled. He did not expect her to make such a request. "Humph, you don't agree, right? I think you are just a person who goes back on his words. Leave my body and scram," Marshall angrily shouted. Tang Zheng was hesitant.
Seeing her angry appearance, he advised, "Make another request."
"This is my request.
"Whether you agree or not is up to you," Wu snappily said as she grabbed her clothes and put them on. Unfortunately, her clothes had already been torn apart, revealing her body. It was faintly discernible, which was even more enticing than not wearing any clothes.
She took large strides towards the small district.
She wanted to jump over the wall, but when her toes touched the ground, her legs went limp and she staggered towards the wall.
Tang Zheng cried out in alarm.
He immediately rushed over and hugged her. With a tap of his foot, the two of them flew over the wall and landed firmly on the ground.
Tang Zheng tightly hugged her slender waist. His palm felt a soul-stirring softness. Marshall's face flushed red.
She pushed him away and scolded, "I don't want you to be hypocritical.
In any case, you have a heart of stone. You are not even willing to forgive your own parents.
Although they are my biological parents, they did not fulfill any of their parental responsibilities.
How can I not be angry?"
Tang Zheng retorted. "That's because you didn't have the chance before. Since you have the chance now, why can't you give them a chance and let them fulfill some of their responsibilities? Is there a need for you to beat them to death like this?" Marshall's aura was not weak as he argued with reason.
Tang Zheng was silent.
He indeed did not give them a chance to fulfill their responsibilities.
Could it be that he was too cruel?
"Master was worried about your safety and specially sent me to stay by your side to protect you. Isn't this concern?
How can you turn a blind eye to it?"
Marshall chattered on.
"If it wasn't for me just now, would you still be standing here alive?"
Tang Zheng glanced at her and admitted that she was right. If it wasn't for her, he would have been in danger.
So, in reality, it was Wu Junshan who saved his life.
Seeing that Tang Zheng's will was wavering, Marshall struck while the iron was hot and said, "As long as you promise to give them a chance, I will forgive you this time."
Tang Zheng's heart moved.
The other party had already given in. If he continued to persist, wouldn't it be too heartless and cold?
"All right, I'll promise you. I'll give them a chance.
But if you want me to forgive them immediately, that's impossible."
Tang Zheng finally compromised.
Marshall was overjoyed. Although this result was not perfect, at least there was progress. He nodded and said, "At least you have some responsibility.
Let's go home.
If the security patrol sees us, we'll lose a lot." Tang Zheng pointed at his exposed skin and reminded,
"How can I leave from the main entrance like this?
Moreover, there are surveillance cameras at the bottom of the building." Marshall fiercely glared at him and asked. The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth curled up and said, "It's nothing, watch me." After saying that, he picked her up by the waist, and with a tap of his foot on the ground, he leaped up a few meters into the air, and then lightly tapped on the wall a few times, and the two of them soared up. Fortunately, it was the middle of the night, otherwise, this scene would definitely attract many people to stop and watch. Wu did not scream, she was just a little surprised that he would use such a method to glare at him, but he turned a blind eye to it. In mid-air, she subconsciously hugged his body, and in a trance, she felt as if they were a pair of intimate lovers. She subconsciously shook her head and hurriedly got rid of this absurd thought. She adjusted her rapid breathing and quietly felt this different feeling. Since she was young, although she had come into contact with a lot of people of the opposite sex, they were all disciples of the martial sect. They were all in awe of her, the sect master's disciple, and did not dare to offend her like this. Ever since she had that intimate relationship with Tang Zheng in the 10,000 huge mountains, her heart began to change. Originally, the feeling between men and women was like that, but this time, the feeling was completely different, as if she had peeked into another wonderful world. At this moment, lying in Tang Zheng's arms, a strong sense of security filled her heart. She knew that this arm was a strong safe harbor, and any wind or rain would be blocked outside. Suddenly, a complicated thought arose in her heart. She could not help but be a little envious of Feng Shishir, because she would often lean on this arm and ignore all the wind and rain outside. Bang! Tang Zheng's feet lightly landed on the ground. Wu Ruming woke up and immediately suppressed the complicated thoughts in his heart. He jumped down from her arms and rushed into the bedroom as if he was flying. Seeing her fleeing in panic, Tang Zheng smiled bitterly and rubbed his nose.
Was he that scary?
It was as if she couldn't wait to escape from the claws of a devil. He shook his head, not bothering with these messy thoughts. He calmed his mind and carefully investigated the situation in his body. After that dangerous scene just now, other than being intimate with her, his gains were not small either. Other than the breakthrough of the chaotic Vajra spell, his cultivation had also reached the 7th stage of the Anidia realm after the final moment of the harmony of yin and yang. Looking at the surging innate qi in his body, Tang Zhang was overjoyed. The dragon Yuan Dan was indeed useful, and he had taken too much of a risk previously. It seemed that he could not take 2 pills at once in the future. 1 pill at a time was the most suitable. Not only could it increase his innate qi, it could also temper his body, and it could also prevent the eruption of the pure yang energy. Chapter 556. Train Station. During the Spring Festival, there was a huge flow of people. On the 3rd day of the new year, there were already migrant workers traveling far away by car. Tang Zhang and Marshall stood at the exit of the station, looking at the bustling passengers walking out. Marshall's tall and slender figure made the others pale in comparison, especially the few girls, who avoided her from afar, because standing near her was too stressful. Marshall was very tall, with a pair of straight and slender legs. Her figure was comparable to that of a professional model, and her beautiful face, all of which were quite lethal weapons. In any case, many people were secretly looking at her. Marshall's eyes looked at his nose. His nose looked at his heart, and was indifferent to all of this. Just like Tang Zhang, he also looked at the exit, curious as to who exactly he was waiting for. Suddenly, the crowd surged. The train arrived at the station and the passengers exited. Tang Zhang's eyes widened as his gaze wandered through the crowd. Suddenly, his pupils constricted as he locked onto a group of people and quickly walked forward to welcome them. Wu followed closely behind and looked in his direction. Immediately she saw her target, and it was someone she knew, Yi Yuan. Beside Yi Yuan were 20 to 30 powerful clansmen, and the nearby tourists all avoided them. It was obvious that this group of natural warriors was emitting an aura that no one could enter. Humph! An aura. Tang Zhang and the rest also saw Tang Zhang. They quickly walked forward with great momentum, and then stood in front of Tang Zhang at the same time, all of them standing straight like javelins, as if they wanted to pierce through the heavens. Everyone looked sideways, guessing who this group of people were. The group of people bowed towards Tang Zhang at the same time, and respectfully called out, "Greetings, Lord Envoy." What? Lord Envoy? Many people rubbed their ears, thinking that they had heard wrongly. Could it be that they were filming a movie? But there were no cameras around. Tang Zhang did not want to be surrounded by onlookers, so he immediately waved his hand and said, "No need to be so polite, let's get on the carriage and go back first." "Yes, sir." Everyone accepted the order in unison. Tang Zhang was helpless. His prestige in the shaman tribe had already been deeply rooted in his bones, and now, he was probably even more prestigious than the elders of the shaman tribe. It would not be easy to make them not follow the rules and salute him. However, what made him very gratified was that the strength of this group of people had obviously improved a lot. Back then, they were restricted by a mysterious restriction in the 100,000 mountains and could not practice cultivation methods. But now they were all cultivators, and the weakest was at the foundation establishment stage, which was equivalent to acquired warrior. The strength of these 30 Hotian warriors could not be underestimated. Back then, Tang Zhang had taken a long time to reach the foundation establishment stage, but these witch warriors were able to reach this stage so quickly, it was enough to show the innate talent of the witch tribe. In fact, there was a reason for this. Although the shamans were unable to cultivate in the past, they lived in the mountains all year round and had been tempered by the various secret medicines of the elders. Their strength was not weak, and their bodies had long stored a huge amount of treasures. Amongst them, Yi Yuan's cultivation speed was the most terrifying. Right now, he had already reached the 9th stage of the foundation establishment stage, and was only a step away from the Anidia realm. Wu Yi looked at them suspiciously, not knowing why Tang Zhang had summoned all these people over with such great momentum. However, she was used to watching and listening less, so she just watched silently. The few of them boarded a bus and an off-road vehicle that they had prepared beforehand. Tang Zhang personally drove the off-road vehicle, causing Yi Yuan to be overwhelmed by the favor and almost not dare to sit on it. "Ah Yuan, it's been hard on you all the way," Tang Zhang said. Yi Yuan hurriedly said, "Lord Envoy, it's not hard for us. Everyone is too happy to see you again. The day before yesterday, when we received your notice, we immediately set off and crossed the border.
Because we did not have any identity and the inspection for taking a plane was too strict, taking a train was much easier. We snuck into the train station and took the train to Chongqing City. I wonder if this delayed Sir Envoy's plans? Tang Jing laughed and said, "Don't delay, my matters are not that urgent, I did not expect you all to come so quickly." The elder was afraid that he would delay Lord Envoy's grand plan, so he urged us not to delay in the slightest. "Is the elder all right?" Yi Yuan's face revealed a look of joy and said, "Elder is very good. Now that he has entered the fasting period, according to what Senior Tian Chanzi said, the potential that the elder has accumulated for most of his life has not completely erupted, so his cultivation in the future can only be higher." The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth raised and said, "Oh, then I really have to congratulate elder." "Oh right, how is Tian Chanzi's cultivation?" On the phone, he kept hemming and hawing, unwilling to talk about it in detail. Yi Yuan shook his head regretfully. "Senior Tian Chanzi's cultivation is unfathomable. He did not tell us, so we have no way of knowing." Tang Zhang said that this old fellow was still playing a game of secrecy with him. The next time he saw him, he had to make things clear. This fellow used to be a cultivator of the Yuanying realm. He did not know when he would be able to completely recover his cultivation, and at that time, his side would be even stronger. However, although Tang Zhang could contact Tian Chanzi, if there was nothing important, he would definitely not contact him. This was because he was afraid that if he contacted him too frequently, he would expose the other party's exact location. Now that technology was so advanced, if the mysterious power in his hands was completely investigated, it would not be good for him. However, this time, he had allowed the witch clan to return to their country due to many considerations. Firstly, he needed people who were strong enough and trustworthy to stay by his side to deal with all kinds of possible dangers. Secondly, his identity as a cultivator had already been exposed, and the existence of the witch clan was no longer a secret. Since everyone knew about it, why not openly pull it out and let everyone see the strength of the witch clan in him? This way, he would be able to shock the younger generation. This was his idea of benefiting from being big and strong. His strength was not only reflected in his business empire, but also in his martial strength. Not only was it a person, but also the powerful martial strength in his hands. This way, in the future, if a small fry like the Dragon Group wanted to deal with him, they would have to weigh their own weight. Thirdly, the sorcerer tribe lived in the mountains and forests all year round, isolated from the rest of the world. Although they had been training in the mortal world during this period of time, how could a small border country be compared to a big country like Wuxia? In their own country, they would receive more challenges. This way they could quickly strengthen their foundation and increase their strength. Aren't you afraid of becoming the target of public criticism when you let so many cultivators appear at the same time? Wu finally could not help but ask. The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth curled up and he laughed. "In any case, I am already in high demand. Who knows how many pairs of eyes are staring at me? Since that's the case, then let's play a big game and let them see more cultivators. Moreover, the martial sect is in chaos, so they should not have the time to care about the cultivators." The internal strife in the martial sect had undoubtedly given him a chance for the cultivators to take a breather. Wu shook his head. "You are too risky, you forgot what Mistress warned you. They suspect that there is another mysterious power behind the martial sect in Li Palace. This power has never appeared. I'm afraid they don't have much of a good impression of cultivators." Tang Zheng's heart trembled, then he shook his head. "If we blindly fear wolves and tigers, then what great things can we do? Sometimes, we can't have too many misgivings. We have to take advantage of the momentum and see how far we can go." Frisky. Wu curled his lips and commented, obviously not agreeing with Tang Zheng's point of view. Hearing that, Yi Yuan firmly stood on Tang Zheng's side, and said sonorously, "We witch clan warriors will follow Lord Envoy's lead. We believe in Lord Envoy's decision." "Stubborn," Marshall said disapprovingly. Thinking about that mysterious and unfathomable power, Tang Jing frowned and asked, "Aren't there 3 big mysterious organizations in this world? Martial Sect, Li Palace and Azure Dragon Palace. Why have I never heard you mention the Azure Dragon Palace?" Wu's expression changed slightly as he said in a deep voice, "The Azure Dragon Palace is the most mysterious of the 3 great organizations. I heard from Master that even he did not know much about the secrets of the Azure Dragon Palace, and only heard from word of mouth that there was such an organization in this world that was as famous as the Martial Sect and the Li Palace." Tang Zhang could not help but open his eyes wide.
There was actually such an inconceivable thing in this world. Even Wu Junshan did not know about the Azure Dragon Palace that was as famous as the martial sect. Why did it sound like a lie? But looking at Wu's expression, it was obvious that he was not lying. Could it be that the Azure Dragon Palace was really so mystical that it could escape the eyes of the martial sect? Could it be that this Azure Dragon Palace disappeared a long time ago? Tang Zheng let his imagination run wild. Impossible. Although no one from the Azure Dragon Palace has appeared before, this organization definitely exists. It's just that it's too mysterious. Maybe it's hidden in the city, or maybe it's right beside you and me. Tang Zheng laughed out loud. How was this possible? A mysterious organization existing in the streets was like a fantasy. The hardest thing to keep in this world was a secret. How could such a large organization hide? This was definitely a great question. Now that there is the Azure Dragon Palace, the martial sect and the mysterious power behind the Li Palace, this is truly a competition for supremacy. More and more people are coming on stage. Tang Zheng could not help but laugh as he teased. The powers are intricate and complicated, then as the target of everyone's eyes, you are in more danger. You should be careful, but you did the opposite and made such a big fuss. I really don't understand you. Wu said doubtfully. Tang Zheng shook his head and said, I was too careful in the past. As the saying goes, a good horse is ridden by people, and a good person is bullied by people. From the matter of the Dragon Group, I finally understood that in order to survive in this world, only by becoming strong enough and having the strength to make others fear me will I try my best to avoid trouble. I don't cause trouble, but I'm even more afraid of trouble. Tang Zheng's words were resolute and decisive, sonorous and powerful, like a heavy hammer striking Marshall's heart. In a trance, she seemed to have seen her master. In the past, when her master was in the martial sect, he was also this powerful. This kind of aura was fascinating. Hey, if you look at me like that, I'll be embarrassed. Tang Zheng glanced at her and teased mischievously. Marshall coldly snorted and said with a false heart, I want to see how you deal with the trouble you cause in the future. Tang Zheng shrugged his shoulders indifferently. Crossing the river, humph. I'll turn you into a drowned bug later. Tang Zheng said with a gloomy face. The corner of Marshall's mouth hooked up. Looking at the thugs who didn't know that a great disaster was about to befall them, they couldn't help but feel sad for them. These people didn't even know the background of their opponents, yet they still dared to rashly charge forward. They were simply born to be cannon fodder. Marshall walked to the periphery of the crowd and patted the shoulder of a person who was shouting non-stop, saying, Make way! That person turned his head and glared at Tang Zheng, saying, Brat, scram! Do you believe that I won't beat you up? Tang Zheng's thick eyebrows twitched as he sent out a slap. Pow! That person was like a spinning top, continuously spinning on the spot before finally crashing to the ground. The others immediately noticed the clues and turned their heads at the same time. They angrily stared at Tang Zheng and roared, Brat, where are you from? You dare to hit our people. Are you looking for trouble? Tang Zheng looked at the other party and asked coldly, Who sent you here? F***CK. You still dare to question me? I'll cut you to death. The other party punched. Tang Zheng did not move at all. A big hand had already blocked in front of him, holding onto the fist, only to see the fist emitting a creaking sound, and then shrinking bit by bit at a speed visible to the naked eye. The other party immediately let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. Yi Yuan turned a deaf ear to the scream and looked at Tang Zheng inquiringly. Tang Zheng said indifferently, Since you don't want to speak, then there's no need to. Yi Yuan understood and waved to his clansmen. The group of people were like fierce tigers descending the mountain as they rushed over. Before the other party could even say a few words, he saw a group of people rushing in front of him. Without saying a word, they directly smashed their hammer-like fists onto the other party's body. This was a one-sided slaughter. Tang Zheng was not interested in watching at all. He walked to the door and with a creak, the door opened. Lin who stood behind the door, and behind him was a group of curious guests. When they saw the martial arts scene outside, they all widened their eyes. Especially since this was an overwhelming battle, there was no suspense at all. Those people were like wheat, being harvested by the Witch Clan warriors at lightning speed. The screams were earth-shattering, and in contrast, none of the Witch Clan warriors made a single sound. They only had calm faces,
as if their opponents were really weak, and the screams did not cause any ripples in their hearts. These guests could not help but tremble as a strong killing intent assaulted their faces. Even the slowest person could feel a different kind of iron-blooded valiance from these people. What kind of team was this? How could they be so strong? In the past, Ordinary Balance had never heard of such a strong team. Everyone guessed. But without a doubt, one thing was certain, and that was that these were Tang Zheng's men. No wonder he had such great achievements at such a young age. Just these iron blood warriors alone were enough for him to walk sideways in the Ordinary Balance. The battle ended very quickly. Then, the Witch Clan warriors ignored the enemy who had completely lost their fighting strength and could only scream in pain on the ground. They stood behind Tang Zheng without saying a word, like a silent shadow, emitting a soul-stirring aura. Lord Envoy, how should we deal with them? Yi Yuan asked in a low voice. Drag them away and throw them away. Don't block the door and affect business. Tang Zheng said without batting an eyelid. Yes. Yi Yuan accepted the order and gestured to the Witch Clan warriors. The Witch Clan warriors started to move, each of them dragging a few enemies as if they were dragging a dead dog, dragging them far away. Then, with a wave of their hands, as if they were throwing a shot put, these people flew towards the bushes in the distance. The guests were flabbergasted. Not only was the fighting strength of this group of big men astonishing, their strength was also too great. They could see with their own eyes that many of them were holding onto 2 legs in one hand, and directly throwing 2 people flying. 2 people, 300 kilograms of weight, to them, seemed to be insignificant. This scene was too impactful. They had no choice but to re-evaluate Tang Zheng. This person was even more powerful than they had imagined. Many people had already secretly made up their minds that they would definitely not be enemies with him in the future. If they could cooperate with him, there would definitely be great benefits. At this point, the influence of the Dragon Group's harsh attack on Tang Zheng's industry gradually disappeared. I'm sorry to disturb everyone's mood. Tang Zheng smiled at the crowd and said. Everyone immediately waved their hands and laughed. Young Master Tang is too serious. Today we have a feast for our eyes. It should be our fortune to be able to enjoy such a good show. The others nodded in agreement. If they had not seen this scene with their own eyes, many people would not have been able to truly experience Tang Zheng's strength. If they were to do something stupid in the future, then the gains would not make up for the losses. Tang Zheng smiled and nodded, his gaze turning to a sports car by the roadside in the distance. Sports cars were not rare in the Ordinary Balance courtyard, but this sports car had been parked by the side of the road ever since Tang Zheng got off the car, forming a stark contrast with the other cars parked in the parking lot. Although the glass of the sports car was blocked, Tang Zheng could still vaguely see that there was someone in the sports car. Thus, he strode towards the sports car. Vroom! The roar of the engine suddenly sounded as the sports car started. It roared like a wild beast and suddenly turned around, fleeing the way it came. The guests were disappointed, thinking that the one sitting in the sports car must be the leader. If it ran away just like that, then they would not know who the mastermind behind the scenes was. But how could Tang Zheng let the other party run away so easily? He coldly snorted and directly walked to a row of iron fences. He casually pulled out an iron rod from the soil. Under the suspicious gazes of the crowd, Tang Zheng roared, "Stop for me!" Whoosh! The iron rod left his hand like a sharp arrow and went straight to the sports car. Wah! The crowd immediately exclaimed. This scene was really beyond everyone's expectations. Tang Zheng actually used an iron rod to block an arrow. How could it catch up with the sports car that was like an arrow leaving the bow? While everyone was still doubting, the iron rod swept across the sky and caught up with the sports car. Bang! The high-speed sports car was pierced through by the iron rod, and the iron rod pierced deeply into the sports car. Then with a creak, the sports car spun on the spot, and finally with a boom, it crashed into a big tree on the side of the road and stopped. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time as they looked at Tang Zheng in shock. This attack was too powerful. How much strength did it require? Everyone's gazes shifted towards Tang Zheng's arm. This pair of arms that were no different from a normal person's actually contained such a powerful explosive force. It was truly terrifying. A heart-wrenching and lung-splitting scream came out from the sports car, and it was even screaming for help. Capture him, Tang Zheng said indifferently. Yi Yuan's feet slipped, and like a gust of wind,
He arrived in front of the sports car in the blink of an eye. He grabbed onto the deformed door and fiercely pulled, causing the metal door to creak, and then was directly torn off from the body of the sports car. A person was dragged out of the sports car by Yi Yuan like a dead dog, and then dragged all the way towards Tang Zheng. Boom! The sports car exploded, turning into a ball of flames that soared into the sky, shocking everyone to the point that their hearts trembled. Yi Yuan threw the captive heavily onto the ground. The other party was gasping for breath as he lay in front of Tang Zheng in a sorry state. Tang Zheng squatted down and grabbed the other party's hair. A familiar face appeared in front of his eyes. It's actually you. Tang Zheng was extremely surprised. Chapter 558. This person was Lei Jun, who had a conflict with Tang Zheng in the shopping mall back then. This time, he had received his father's orders and personally brought people to smash the place, taking the opportunity to vent the anger in his heart. Unexpectedly, enemies were on a narrow road. The enemy he had been painstakingly searching for had no news of him, but at this moment, the other party was standing in front of him alive. He was both surprised and happy. It was truly a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, and obtaining it without any effort. That trace of fear just now vanished like smoke in thin air. As if he had been injected with chicken blood, he became incomparably fearful again. He stared at Tang Zheng restlessly and said, "Brat, so it's you. I've been looking for you for so long, but I haven't been able to find you. This time, don't even think about escaping. If you dare to offend me, I will make you die a miserable death." Tang Zheng snorted in disdain and said, "I think you don't understand the situation. Since that's the case, I'll let you understand the situation first." As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Yuan punched Lei Jun's stomach. Wah! He immediately bent down and vomited acid, as if he was about to vomit out his gallbladder. He then fell to the ground and bent into the shape of a shrimp. You dare to hit me?" Lei Jun pointed at Tang Zheng in disbelief. "I'll hit you, what can you do? From what you said just now, you've been looking for me to take revenge, right? Since you haven't given up on me, then I won't let you off. Let's settle the old and new debts together." Tang Zheng's face gradually turned frosty. "New debts and old debts, I should be the one settling them with you. If you treat me like this, my father will definitely not let you off." Lei Jun appeared fierce on the outside, and started to use his father to scare Tang Zheng. You want to compete with your father, right? I forgot to tell you, I hate people who rely on their father the most. I'm an idiot, and only by relying on my father can I give myself some courage. This kind of life, just thinking about it is very sad." Tang Zheng said in disdain. Lei Jun's face flushed red as he gnashed his teeth in hatred. "Since you want to compete with your father, then tell me, who exactly is your father? I also want to meet him." Tang Zheng asked curiously. "My father is Wuxia's Lei Ming. Are you scared now?" Lei Jun said proudly. In the past, whenever he met an opponent, as long as he mentioned his father's name, the opponent would be scared off. There were even people who would kneel down and beg for mercy. Every time this happened, he would enjoy the thrill of the reversal. But this time, he was disappointed. Tang Zheng had no reaction to the name at all. Instead, he said to himself, "Who is Lei Ming? How come I've never heard of him?" "You've never heard of it before? Impossible!" Lei Jun cried out in disbelief. Almost all the reputable people in the province knew of Thunder Cry's great name. This person actually said that he didn't know of him. It was too absurd. Tang Zheng curled his lips in disapproval and jokingly said, "Is your father so famous that I must have heard of him?" Lei Jun was speechless. Wen Lin, who heard the two words Lei Ming, his eyelids fiercely jumped. If it was in the past, he would definitely stay away from this level of people. He would even bow and bend his knees. But now, even if Lei Ming was powerful, but in Lin Hu's heart, he still couldn't be compared to young Master Tang. Young Master Tang, Lei Ming is the big brother of the Jade Sand Road's dragon head. He is a powerful character that can cause anyone in the province to tremble if they step on him. Lin Hu softly reminded Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng suddenly realized that the other side had a bit of background. But he and Lei Ming had no enmity in the past, so why would he send people to deal with him? However, this wasn't the main problem. Now that the other clubs were also under attack, so he had to first deal with the attack and then deal with the main culprit behind it.
Tang Zheng grabbed Lei Jun's collar and lifted him up.
His voice was stern as he said, "Since you've fallen into my hands, you better be obedient.
Otherwise, I guarantee that even your father won't be able to save you.
You will die a very, very miserable death. So now order your subordinates to stop attacking. If you dare to cause trouble in my territory, I will definitely make you suffer so much that you'll wish you were dead."
Threatening me to submit? Then I won't. I want to see what you can do to me, Lei Jun said without fear.
In his impression, normal people really didn't dare to touch him, especially those in the underworld. They were even more afraid of his father.
Is that so? You asked for it.
As his voice fell, Tang Zheng grabbed Lei Jun's arm and fiercely twisted it. Kacha, the bones shattered, and a miserable shriek like that of a pig being slaughtered soared into the sky. Lei Jun's arm was twisted at a strange angle.
F***ck, it hurt so much. You mother***cur. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your whole family, Lei Jun loudly shouted. Tang Zheng's face turned cold. In this life, the people he hated the most were those who threatened his family. He grabbed Lei Jun's shoulder and moved his fingers. Kacha, the bones in Lei Jun's shoulder were all crushed. Immediately, Lei Jun's scream became louder and louder. In the end, it turned into a hoarse whimper. Large beads of sweat flowed down his cheeks. His facial muscles twisted because of the pain and his entire body trembled like a sieve.
"I'll listen to you. I'll listen to you."
He finally hurriedly nodded his head.
Tang Zheng nodded his head in satisfaction. "Make the call quickly.
My patience is limited. Otherwise, you won't be able to keep your other arm."
Lei Jun hurriedly used his other hand to make a call, ordering his subordinates to stop attacking. When the guests saw this scene, many of them felt their legs go weak and almost fell to the ground. They all looked at Tang Zheng in disbelief, not knowing how he could be so calm at such a young age. The storm had come to an end, but it did not stop. Tang Zheng called out to Lin Hu to entertain the guests, then waved his hand, allowing Yi Yuan to escort Lei Jun into the carriage. Lei Jun was about to faint from the pain. He kept begging to be sent to the hospital, but Tang Zheng turned a deaf ear to him and asked, "Why is your Lei family targeting me?
I have no enmity with you, right?"
Lei Jun already understood that although Tang Zheng looked kind, he was definitely not a good person. Thus, he did not dare to hide anything and betrayed Qin Lao like a bamboo tube spilling beans. Tang Zheng's eyes flashed with a cold light as he muttered to himself, "So it's this old fellow.
He really doesn't change his nature. Where is he now?" Tang Zheng had the intention to kill Qin Lao.
Since his opponent did not know what was good for him, and being remembered by such a person was not a good thing, he might as well cut the grass and get rid of the roots.
At the same time, he could also test the attitude of the Song family. "Take me to see him." "Yes, no problem. But can you send me to the hospital first? I'm going to die of pain." Lei Jun begged for mercy with snot and tears.
He finally understood the pain of those people who had been stepped on by him in the past.
"You wish." Of course, Tang Zheng would not let the other party escape. He tapped the other party's body a few times with his finger, and the feeling that entered his heart actually eased a lot. Lei Jun looked at him in disbelief, not knowing what kind of method he was using. In fact, Lei Jun was also a martial artist, but he was not as good as Huang Xiang. Relying on his father, he ate, drank, and played all day long. He was ignorant and incompetent, and his martial arts were almost completely wasted. That was why he was so useless. At this moment, he placed his only hope on his father. Since these people wanted to find his father, he would wait for his father to personally deal with them, and then he would take revenge. Tang Zheng did not care about his little thoughts. He suddenly remembered the celebrity called Lu Yanran, so he casually asked, "Wasn't there a celebrity with you last time? How is she?" A trace of anger flashed across Lei Jun's face. He gritted his teeth and said, "That bitch ran away. Damn, she really thinks she's so powerful. Next time when she comes back, I will definitely deal with her." Hee hee, she's a celebrity. Can you deal with her? So what if she's a celebrity? Nowadays, there are so many celebrities with a price tag. As long as you have money, what kind of celebrity can't you play with? Lei Jun disagreed. Clearly, he was speaking from his experience.
In the past, he had dealt with many so-called female celebrities. Tang Zheng sighed inwardly. The entertainment circle was dirty and messy. Fortunately, Ling Er was in his company, so there wouldn't be such a foul atmosphere. But if anyone dared to have any ideas about Ling Er or force her to do something against her will, he would definitely stand up and not let them off easily. The two vehicles sped as they arrived at the highway in a short while and headed towards Jade Sand City. But when they reached the highway, Lin Hu chased after them. He knew Tang Zheng's temper. Since Lei Jun dared to come here, then he would definitely not let this matter go. But the other party was Lei Ming, after all. What if they couldn't get any benefits by coming to the other party's territory? Lin Hu could not afford to make any mistakes, so he hurriedly dealt with the matters of the ordinary balance courtyard and chased after them without stopping. Thus, Lei Ming was escorted to the bus. Tang Zheng, Wu, Yi Yuan and Lin Hu sat on the carriage. Lin Hu became the driver, and as he drove he said, "Young Master Tang, even if you go find trouble with Lei Ming, you can't be too anxious. Otherwise, if you don't prepare enough, all 30 of us might be annihilated." Lin Hu believed that Tang Zheng would definitely be able to defeat Lei Ming. However, seeing that he only brought around 30 people and dared to go straight to the Yellow Dragon, he was still a little unsure in his heart. After all, Lin Hu had been in the underworld for so many years, and Lei Ming's great name was like thunder to his ears. He knew more about it than Tang Zheng. As the saying goes, those who don't know don't do it. The more you know about a person, the more you understand how powerful that person is. Lei Ming was such a powerful person. Even though he was a member of the underworld, his family had been operating in Jade Sand for 2 generations. The Lei family could be said to be a famous underworld family in Jade Sand. Although they had restrained themselves a lot, where was their background? Ordinary people would not be able to shake this local tyrant. Hearing Lin Hu's analysis, Tang Zheng nodded his head in realization. No wonder Lei Jun was so unbridled. His family background was not simple. It is said that Lei Ming can gather over 1,000 people in Jade Sand with a single shout. Our 30 people are like a clay ox entering the sea. The situation is not optimistic. Lin Hu said worriedly. Tang Zheng laughed out loud and said, "You are underestimating a Yuan's clansmen too much. They are natural warriors, and this is a good time to train them and let the world see the power of the witch clan. Moreover, as the saying goes, speed is everything. This time, we will take advantage of the fact that he is not prepared and catch him off guard." Chapter 559. The Jade Sand City was bustling with activity. Once they got off the highway, they could feel the bustling atmosphere. Lin Hu didn't know where Thundercry lived, but with Lei Jun's guidance, the group headed straight for Thundercry's headquarters. The Lei family had been in the underworld for generations. They understood the principle of a crafty rabbit having 3 burrows. Not only did they have a residence in the city, they also had a huge independent villa outside the city. There were 3 floors inside and 3 floors outside, all of which were filled with spies. If there was any movement, Lei Ming would receive the news. As a result, before the 2 cars could get close to the Lei family's villa, they were already discovered. The roadblock at the intersection was put down, blocking the car. Tang Zheng got off the car and looked around. The Lei family's base camp was like a small kingdom, several times larger than Huang San's base camp in the past. When the 2 cars were stopped by the roadblock, a large group of people with unfriendly expressions surrounded them. Tang Zheng was too lazy to waste his breath with these people, so he asked Yi Yuan to escort Lei Jun out of the car. Immediately, when the other party saw the battered and exhausted Lei Jun, it was as if a hornet's nest had exploded, as they roared and rushed over like a tide. Tang Zheng squinted his eyes, and with a wave of his hand, the witch clan immediately rushed out like a tiger and wolf, like a ferocious beast playing with water. The other party's crowd was immediately torn apart, and many people were like splashes of water, flying in all directions. The witch clan was born with divine strength and was also a cultivator. How could this group of mobs who only knew how to force themselves to be strong be compared to them? Not long later, the ground was covered with people, screaming miserably at the top of their lungs. When the others saw this, they finally knew fear and retreated. "Who dares to cause trouble in my Lei family?" Suddenly, a furious roar sounded out, and the crowd automatically separated. Lei Ming walked out boldly, his eyes like torches, staring at the enemy fiercely. When he saw Lei Jun, his pupils constricted and he couldn't help but clench his fists. Who are you people? Tang Zheng took a step forward and said, You sent people to destroy my business, but you don't know who I am. Humph. How interesting. Lei Ming narrowed his eyes and examined Tang Zheng from head to toe. He asked, Are you Tang Zheng? Looks like you're not that stupid after all. Tang Zheng jokingly said. Impudent. How dare a kid who hasn't even grown out speak to me like that? Lei Ming shouted in an overbearing manner. His eyes turned and locked onto Lin Hu. Lin Hu, you actually followed this brat. I don't know if you have been living like a dog all these years. It was clear that Thunder was more familiar with Lin Hu, who had been in ordinary balance for most of his life, but he was very disdainful of him. Although Tang Zheng had made a name for himself in ordinary balance, in Lei Ming's eyes, he was just a child's play. Ordinary balance was a small place that he had deliberately neglected. Otherwise, how could it have fallen into the hands of others? It was because of Lei Ming's innate pride that he was so arrogant and fearless. Anger flashed across Lin Hu's face. If it was before, he would not have dared to go against Lei Ming. But at this moment, with young Master Tang as his backing, he was not afraid at all. He took a big step forward, stood out, and said, Lei Ming, we have always minded our own business, but this time you have crossed the line and dared to make a move on young Master Tang. This is breaking the rules. What do you say we do? Lei Ming snorted disdainfully and said, Rules? You dare to talk to me about rules? In the past, even the ordinary balance's Huang San did not dare to talk to me like that. Who do you think you are, Lin Hu? Lin Hu's face flashed with anger. Lei Ming, I am doing this for your own good. Otherwise, the one who will suffer will be you. Lin Hu had long understood Tang Zheng's style of doing things. If people did not offend him, he would not offend them. If people offended him, he would kill them. However, Lei Ming was not Huang San, and Yu Sha was not the ordinary balance. Although Lin Hu believed in Tang Zheng's strength, he did not want Tang Zheng to fight to the death with Lei Ming. Tang Zheng could see through Lin Hu's thoughts, but he did not comment. Since he had such thoughts, then he would let him express it. Lei Ming did not know of Lin Hu's good intentions. He was extremely disdainful as he arrogantly laughed. Arrogant, you dare to be so arrogant in my territory, and even dare to say that you are doing this for my own good. Whatever, it seems that my Lei Ming's reputation is not as good as it was in the past. Any random cat or dog dares to step on me. Today, I will use your deeds to tell others that in this place, I Lei Ming have the final say. Lin Hu helplessly shook his head. The other party was stubborn and treated his good intentions as bad intentions. Since that was the case, then there was nothing to talk about. Otherwise, it would be a waste of Tang Zheng's prestige. Lin Hu took a step back and respectfully stood behind Tang Zheng, not saying another word. This result had long been within Tang Zheng's expectations. These stubborn old men would not listen to Lin Hu's words. Tang Zheng leisurely walked forward and said softly, I hate threats the most. Since you have threatened me, then I will definitely not turn a blind eye to it. I must prevent this kind of thing from happening again. However, if you tell me where Qin Lao is, then I will let you die a little faster. Lei Ming looked at Tang Zheng in disbelief. Was this brat talking about fantasy? How could he say such shameless words? Lei Ming was stunned for a long time before bursting into laughter. Even his subordinates were laughing. Some of them were laughing so hard that they could not straighten their backs. This was too funny. They had never seen such a reckless person. You want to find Qin Lao? You are not qualified. You want to kill me? Then I will send you to hell first. Lei Ming's face darkened like 10,000 years of ice. He waved his hand and said, Get rid of them all. Don't leave a single one alive. Tang Zheng also frowned and said, One is not enough, it's ruthless enough, as expected of you running amok in Yu Sha for so many years. Since you want to start a massacre, if I don't return the favor, wouldn't that be too rude? Ah Yuan, get rid of Lei Jun. Yi Yuan did not hesitate to grab Lei Jun's neck. Lei Jun immediately rolled his eyes and could not breathe. Seeing that his son was in danger, Lei Ming was unable to restrain his anger and roared, Kill him and save my son. Ka ka ka. The sound of gunbolts being pulled rang out, and a dozen or so people jumped out from behind Lei Ming. Each of them had a pistol in their hands, and this was one of Lei Ming's killing moves, a group of death warriors raised by the Lei clan. This group of people could be called sharpshooters, and it was unknown how many lives they had taken. Many of Lei Ming's enemies had already died at their hands. At the same time they fired, their feet did not stop as they quickly approached in an attempt to save Lei Jun. Kill! Tang Zheng did not retreat an inch. Instead, he took the lead and with a loud roar, he soared into the air and dodged the bullets. The War Soul Sword was already in his hands. The War Soul Sword had long been thirsty to drink human blood. Today, it was just the right time to use these people as sacrificial offerings. With a flash of the blade, Tang Zheng had already pounced in front of the Death Warrior. With a wide swing of his sword, the pistol in one of his hands broke into 2 pieces, but the opponent's reaction was also very fast. With his other hand, he also took out a gun and aimed it at Tang Zheng and pulled the trigger. The opponent was actually able to shoot left and right. Both of his hands could use the gun, and his marksmanship was extremely accurate. The War Soul Sword crossed his chest to block. Clang clang clang, the golden bullet struck the sword, but did not injure Tang Zheng in the slightest. How could Tang Zheng allow the opponent to suppress him like this? With a flash, he moved away from the muzzle of the gun, and the War Soul Sword fell from the sky. Poochie, the opponent's 2 arms were cut off, blood splattering everywhere. Tang Zheng kicked the opponent in the chest, and the opponent flew backwards. All of this seemed complicated, but in fact, it all happened in a split second. Seeing the bullets flying towards him, Yi Yuan grabbed Lei Jun and used him as a shield, blocking in front of him. Pu, blood splattered everywhere, and Lei Jun immediately turned into a hornet's nest, dead to the point that he couldn't be any more dead. Lei Ming's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets when he saw this. He roared, "My son, kill them all! Avenge my son! Don't leave a single one alive! Kill them all! Kill their families too! Cut the weeds and dig up the roots! Leave no one alive!" Immediately, the faces of the Death Warriors became even colder, as if they were facing death, and the speed at which they pulled the trigger became even faster. The Witch Clan warriors did not sit still and wait for death. They followed behind Tang Zheng and shuttled through the rain of bullets. The bullets brushed past their bodies, but their expressions did not change, as if the bullets were just small stones that they did not put in their eyes at all. The Witch Clan warriors already knew the power of guns and cannons, so of course they would not foolishly use their bodies to block them. Although they had all cultivated the primal Chaos Vajra spell, they would not take the risk of using their bodies to block the bullets. On the other hand, Wu was the calmest. She knew very well that these people could not harm Tang Zheng at all, so she crossed her arms and calmly watched as Tang Zheng charged forward. Occasionally, 1 or 2 bullets would fly towards her, but she would only slightly move her body to dodge them. Everyone was shocked when they saw that this tiger-like army was actually not afraid of the lethality of the bullets. If it was just one person, it would not be enough to be afraid, but the key was that all 30 of them were the same. This rainbow-like aura was even more frightening than those Death Warriors. The moment the bullets finally changed the stretcher, the Witch Clan warriors took advantage of this gap and swung out their fists like iron hammers, smashing into the temples of these people. With a muffled bang, not only did people fall down, there were also people who fell down. These warriors, who had been fighting ferocious beasts in the forest all year round, every move was a killing move. There were no extra movements at all, and they were as smooth as flowing water. They were filled with the violent beauty of iron and blood, causing people to be shocked to the core. However, their attacks had one thing in common, and that was that their movements were relatively single. Furthermore, everyone's movements were completely different. It was obvious that they were not the moves of the system, but the moves that they had figured out in practice. This was the weakness of the Witch Clan. Although they could cultivate, the primal Chaos Vajra spell was a cultivation technique that tempered the body, not a technique. Therefore, although their cultivation was not low, their techniques were still weak. Chapter 560. The Witch Clan was invincible, and in an instant, all of the Death Warriors were dead or injured. Lei Ming's eyes revealed fear as he stared fixedly at Tang Zheng. How could this brat's skills be so terrifying? Tang Zheng seemed to feel Lei Ming's gaze. He turned his head to look, and when their eyes met, Lei Ming's eyes felt as if they had been pricked by a needle, and was intimidated by Tang Zheng's aura, causing his heart to tremble in fear. Damn it, this group of people is far more powerful than I imagined. No, most of them are watching the scene, so there aren't that many people to deal with him. I have to get reinforcements. Seeing the Death Warriors fall one by one, Lei Ming's heart was bleeding. It was not easy to nurture these Death Warriors. He had suffered a huge loss this time. Qin Lao did not remind him that Tang Zheng was so powerful, and allowed him to poke such a big hornet's nest. Lei Ming hid behind the crowd and retreated bit by bit as he made a call and spoke in a low voice. After hanging up the phone, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. The Great Life Order said, "All of you, go up and block them. If anyone dares to take half a step back, not only will I kill him, I will also kill his entire family." With this threat, no one dared to retreat. Those who had retreated to the side had reluctantly rushed forward, but in front of the shamans, these people were like paper. Although there were 200 or 300 of them, against an opponent who was only 1/10 of them, they were defeated like a landslide. These people did not have guns, they only had some cold weapons, so the threat was even weaker. Not long later, these people collapsed and retreated in defeat. They no longer cared about Lei Ming's threat and fled in panic while crying for their parents. "Where's Lei Ming?" Tang Zheng stopped. The war soul sword was still dripping with blood. He asked with a murderous aura. Yi Yuan and the rest shook their heads. Just now, they were only focused on killing the enemy. But they did not notice Lei Ming and let him slip away. Wu walked up, pointed at the large villa in the distance and said, "He escaped in." It was obvious that Lei Ming, who had been observing the situation quietly and had not made a move, did not escape her eyes. "Let's go. What kind of broken big brother dragon head is this? He only has this bit of courage and this bit of skill. He's running pretty fast." Tang Zheng said disdainfully. He had wronged Lei Ming, but he couldn't blame Lei Ming for running away. Tang Zheng's display of strength was simply too shocking. The people of the underworld were at most a little more ruthless. Even if they competed for territory and fought in large groups, it was not so tragic. Even if there were warriors, there were only a few of them. A gunman team like Lei Ming, who had cultivated a group of men of sacrifice, could run rampant in this territory. They had stood tall for many years and no one dared to provoke them. However, these strengths were obviously not enough in front of Tang Zheng. Even a national secret organization like the Dragon Group was something that Tang Zheng dared to contend against. Against these local forces, it was simply crushing them, making them unable to resist at all. In fact, this was also one of the reasons why Tang Zheng was not interested in the underground world. Although it looked impressive on the surface, in fact, in Tang Zheng's eyes, it was just like that. No matter how powerful the boss was, his vision was too small, and his strength was not enough to look at. Tang Zheng's vision was no longer what it used to be. After seeing so many mountains and ridges, how could he be interested in some bumpkins? Therefore, playing with the underground world was equivalent to an adult bullying a child. However, if there was an underground force that dared to challenge his dignity, then they would be a devilish child. When dealing with devilish children, they would definitely not be lenient. If they did not beat them up until they were afraid, they would not know how to restrain themselves. This time, Tang Zheng's action of wantonly attacking Thunder's headquarters was firstly to take revenge, and secondly to intimidate the other forces, so that they would not dare to provoke him again, and also so that the other forces would not dare to take half a step into the ordinary balance. Otherwise, in the future, when he left the ordinary balance to go to school, these forces would come to the ordinary balance to cause trouble. Wouldn't that be very troublesome? Bang! With a kick on the thick door, the door was directly kicked flying. The large luxurious villa was completely silent, and many servants were hiding in the corner, trembling. "Where did Thunder go?" Tang Jing asked. The servants shook their heads in fear and unease. "Looks like he really hid like a turtle. Then let's put in some effort. If we don't find him, we won't withdraw today." Under Tang Zheng's orders, the Witch Clan warriors split into several groups and began to search the villa. However, after half a day, they found nothing. He can't have grown wings and flew away, right?" Tang Zheng said strangely. No one answered him, but a series of sirens came from afar. Lin Hu's face stiffened, and he hurriedly said, "Young Master Tang, the police are here. Lei Ming has run amok in Jade Sand for so many years, he must have a protective umbrella. It's not appropriate for us to directly clash with the police, let's go first." Tang Zheng's eyes flashed, the corner of his mouth hooked up, and said, "Since it's a protective umbrella, protecting this kind of person is not a good person, why would we be afraid of these people? Moreover, if a person like Lei Ming were to let the tiger return to the mountain, then he would definitely hide. At that time, he would be in the dark and we would be in the light." Tang Zheng did not have a ticking time bomb waiting for him. He himself was not afraid, but there were too many people related to him. If someone were to die because of this, then it would be too late for him to regret it. Tang Zheng simply turned around and walked out. When he walked to the door, he saw that a black mass of police had already surrounded the villa, each one of them as if they were facing a great enemy, but also panicked. Especially the dead and injured people on the ground, it gave them too much of a shock. Jade Sand hasn't had such a large-scale incident for many years, and many people still didn't know what was going on. Just where did this fierce person come from to cause such a big mess? Seeing a group of people walk out, the group of police pulled out their guns and pointed them at them. One of them who looked like an officer raised a loudspeaker and shouted, "All of you, put down your weapons and surrender, otherwise we will open fire." Tang Zheng looked at the other party with a smile, and suddenly walked towards them. The police immediately acted as if they were facing a great enemy, and shouted, "Stop, take one more step and we will open fire." Tang Zheng stopped, looked at the other party, and said with a smile, "Lei Ming really has a lot of face, he actually called over so many police helpers. Fine, since the police are here, then there is no way to continue fighting. You still want to fight? This father will let you eat a bullet." The police officer shouted. "Is that so? Hee hee." Tang Zheng chuckled disapprovingly. "Don't move, or else we'll immediately shoot and turn you into a hornet's nest." The police officer threatened, and then hurriedly ordered his subordinates to capture Tang Zheng. A group of policemen carried their guns, their muzzles never leaving Tang Zheng's side as they carefully walked towards Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng did not move, as if he was truly frightened. Seeing that, Yi Yuan was about to rush up and repel the policeman, but he was stopped by Tang Zheng's gaze. Immediately, the others were indignant, their eyes spitting fire as they watched the police surround Tang Zheng, handcuff him, and arrest him. Yi Yuan and his clansmen were puzzled. They did not know why the Lord Envoy wanted to surrender. Only Wu Wu looked at Tang Zheng thoughtfully. "You still have guts. Who exactly are you to dare to be so unbridled in Wuxia and kill so many people?" The police officer finally had the guts to swagger out and ask arrogantly, "Lei Ming wants to kill me. Of course I want to kill him." Tang Zheng said calmly. The police officer did not expect Tang Zheng to narrate the matter so calmly. He was startled for a moment, then immediately flew into a rage. "You dare to be so arrogant in my territory, brat. You are the first one to dare to touch Master Lei. You really ate the guts of a leopard. I can tell you clearly, you will die miserably." "Master Lei." "Hee hee, you police officers already call Lei Ming master. What a group of virtuous and filial sons," Tang Zheng said in ridicule. These words immediately aroused the anger of the crowd. Someone kicked Tang Zheng's waist, but Tang Zheng did not move at all. He looked at the other with ridicule and said, "Is this all you have? Brat, I'll call you crazy. I've seen a lot of people like you. When you get to the police station, I'll see how crazy you are." The police officer clenched his teeth and said, obviously hating Tang Zheng to death, "Arrest the others, don't let a single one of them go. We must severely punish this group of outlaws." The police immediately pounced on the witch clan warrior. Without the orders of the envoy, everyone dared to be angry but did not dare to say anything. No one resisted as they were all handcuffed. Moreover, the police did not let down their guard in the slightest. One by one, the black muzzles were pointed at them, ready to fire at any time. Tang Zheng, however, acted as if nothing had happened. He stared at the other party and said, "Since we've been arrested, then shouldn't the main character come out and say a few words to show off his strength and express his feelings?" The other party was stunned for a moment, unable to understand Tang Zheng's thoughts. "Brat, you talk a lot. I'll make you speechless later," the police officer said hatefully. As soon as he finished speaking, a person walked out of the villa with large strides. He greeted the police officer with an ashen face. "Chief Hong, thank you for coming in time." Wasn't this person Lei Ming who was hiding? Tang Zheng looked at Lei Ming with a smile and said, "Aren't you going to be a coward?" Lei Ming said fiercely, "Brat, let's see how you dare to be arrogant now. You killed my son. I will definitely let you taste the pain of not wanting to live and live a life worse than death." "I'm afraid you won't have that chance." Tang Zheng shook his head and said, "What do you mean?" Lei Ming's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly had an ominous premonition. However, looking at the armed police, his confidence instantly soared. Just like what Lin Hu had said, The Lei family had been operating in jade sand for 2 generations and had bribed countless officials. That was why they were so unbridled. However, Lei Ming would not easily use his official resources. After all, no one had the ability to force him to this step in all these years. This time, he was caught off guard and forced into a corner by Tang Zheng, which was why he couldn't wait to seek official support. Chapter 561. Gotcha! Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Tang Zheng's handcuffed hands were pulled to the sides, and the handcuffs were like paper, breaking into 2 halves. Suddenly, everyone's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Gotcha! Gotcha! However, as if that sound was a signal, the sound of the handcuffs breaking came one after another. After a while, all the witchcraft warriors regained their freedom. The policemen were stunned and didn't know what to do. Lei Ming reacted quickly and shouted, "Open fire! Hurry up and open fire!" He had seen how powerful these people were. Since they dared to break free from the handcuffs, it meant that they were not afraid of the police. Since he had been exposed, wouldn't he be in danger? He was just an outsider. How could the police listen to his order and shoot directly? Moreover, the guns of the police nowadays were more of a deterrent. Some of them probably hadn't fired a gun in a year, so no one immediately opened fire. This gave the warriors of the witch tribe an opportunity to attack, and they would not hesitate. However, they also knew that these policemen were not gangsters, so they did not kill them. One by one, they greeted the policemen with their fists. The policemen subconsciously resisted, but how could their wrestling skills be a match for the warriors of the witch tribe? Bang! 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 The policemen were knocked down one by one and their guns were taken away. The police officer was half a beat faster than the other police officers. The gun in his hand was aimed at Tang Zheng and he fiercely pulled the trigger, but Tang Zheng's movements were even faster than his. With a point of his finger, the police officer found that his finger could not pull the trigger no matter what. Not long after, his entire body stiffened and he could not move. "What did you do to me?" Tang Zheng smiled mysteriously. He had only sealed the policeman's acupoints. Although Tang Zheng was not afraid of him, after all, his skin had a certain protective effect. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Tang Zheng didn't want to hurt the police. Lei Ming's reaction was faster than everyone else. When Tang Zheng pointed his finger, he waved his hand and a cold light flashed, shooting directly at Tang Zheng's throat. Tang Zheng felt a shiver run down his spine. Seeing how cowardly the other party was and how he only knew how to run away, Tang Zheng thought that he was just a fake. Who would have thought that he was actually hiding his true strength? From the looks of it, the other party was at least a Xiantian lord. However, thinking about it from another perspective, it was understandable. Back then, Huang San was a first-grade Xiantian realm martial artist. This Lei Ming naturally didn't just rely on a group of powerful subordinates to occupy such an important place like jade sand. To forge iron, one needed to be strong. He only had the urge to quickly escape, and at the same time, he had already cursed Qin Lao and the ancestors of the Song family in his heart. If they had not come to find him and promised him great benefits, how could he have provoked a nemesis like Tang Zheng? Seeing Tang Zheng close in, Lei Ming let out a low roar and hurriedly retreated. With a flick of his finger with a so sound, the chain flew out and attacked Tang Zheng like a poisonous snake. With a flash of sword light, the War Soul sword slashed fiercely, causing ripples in the air. The chain was unable to get close to Tang Zheng in the slightest, and immediately, the two sides engaged in a fierce battle. Sword light danced in the air, interweaving with the shadows of thousands of chains. After the others dealt with the police, they immediately gathered together to enjoy the fierce battle. The policemen were even more dumbstruck. They had already forgotten the pain in their bodies and did not dare to breathe. Only now did they understand that they had really kicked an iron plate this time. Lei Ming retreated step by step, and was safely suppressed by Tang Zheng. Moreover, he clearly felt that the other party did not use his full strength, otherwise his situation would be even worse. He really regretted it, gasping for breath as he begged for mercy. "Misunderstanding, it's all a misunderstanding. This time, it's a flood rushing against the Dragon King's temple. We don't know each other, so let's stop fighting and sit down to talk, okay?" Tang Zheng sneered. This was the so-called Jade Sand Road's big brother, who was so greedy for life and afraid of death, it was really shocking. He did not know that Lei Ming had not personally killed an enemy for many years, and his youthful spirit had been completely wiped out. He was not like Tang Zheng, who was not afraid of anything. Moreover, people who had been at ease for too long would cherish their lives more. "Where is Qin Lao?" Tang Zheng asked coldly. Lei Ming heard this and quickly said, "He has already left my house, but he is still in Jade Sand. I heard that he went to Tian Shuji's place." "Who is Tian Shuji?" "The secretary of the provincial party committee." Tang Zheng understood. The power of the Song family was indeed not to be underestimated. They actually had a good relationship with the governor of a province. No matter why Lei Ming went to find this Governor Tian, since Tang Zheng wanted to kill Qin Lao, then he had to find the other party even if he had to dig 3 feet into the ground. "I have already answered your question, so can you let me go?" Lei Ming asked pitifully. He did not have any of his previous prestige, which made the policeman surprised. It turned out that the usually arrogant Lei Ming also had this side. Tang Zheng chuckled and mercilessly crushed Lei Ming's hope. "If you had this kind of attitude from the beginning, then you would not have come to this point. Now it is too late for you to say anything." Lei Ming's eyes flashed with a touch of panic. "How can you be like this? I have already answered your question. Did I promise you that if you answered my question, you would not die?" "You!" Lei Ming was speechless. Tang Zheng indeed did not promise. Suddenly his face changed, full of determination and murderous intent. He gritted his teeth and said, "If you kill me, the police will not let you go. Hee, you are counting on your protection to fight for a way out. It may be useful to others, but it is useless to me." Tang Zheng was not even afraid of a mysterious organization like the Dragon Group, so why would he be afraid of the police? Moreover, he was now cooperating with the National Security Bureau. If the National Security Bureau could not even handle such a small matter, then how could he continue to show his face? Therefore, Tang Zheng dared to cause such a ruckus without the slightest scruple because he was completely prepared. He was truly fearless. Lei Ming was shocked. He had been around for most of his life, but he had never seen such a daring person. Although he was the tyrant of Jade Sand, he still had to rely on a big tree and seek protection from many umbrellas before he dared to do such a thing. Where did this brat's confidence come from? "Brat, you killed Master Lei. Don't even think about leaving Jade Sand." Seeing this, the police officer could not help but support Lei Ming. Tang Zheng sneered and did not comment. With a flash of his feet, he used the earth-shrinking technique and immediately closed the distance between them. The War Soul sword chopped down, the powerful aura oppressing the stones on the ground and causing them to explode. Dust and smoke rose in all directions, and then the sword light descended, cutting through the smoke and dust, slashing towards Lei Ming's neck. Lei Ming shouted loudly as the chain flew out and wrapped around the War Soul sword, blocking the attack. Then, with a tap of his foot on the ground, he quickly retreated backwards, and with another tap of his foot, he shot out like an arrow leaving the bow, madly fleeing. Not far away was a small forest. As long as he escaped into this forest, he could easily hide his tracks. As long as he escaped this calamity, it would not be too late for him to take revenge in the future. At that time, he would definitely kill all the people related to Tang Zheng and let him know the consequences of going against him, Lei Ming. Seeing that the other party had already escaped over 100 meters away, as if there was wind beneath his feet, Tang Zheng did not chase after him. With a wave of his hand, the chain wrapped around the War Soul sword flew out, quickly and accurately shooting towards Lei Ming's back. Hearing the strong wind coming from behind him, Lei Ming hurriedly dodged to the side. However, his speed was still a bit slower than the speed of the chain. With a poochie sound, a bright red flower bloomed on his arm. His arm was cut by the sharp blade. Chapter 562. Lei Ming screamed miserably, but he did not care about the pain. He grabbed his arm and saw that the blood flowing out of the wound had already turned black, and like a small snake, many black lines spread out from the wound to the other parts of his body. He was so scared that his face was drained of blood. He knew too well how powerful his weapon was. There was no cure for this poison. Moreover, the poison would follow his blood vessels and spread to his 8 extraordinary meridians. Soon, he would die suddenly. Furthermore, He did not have the antidote. I can't die, I can't die. He was like a sieve, shivering as he stuck his arm above his head, trying to stop the blood from flowing. However, it was futile, and the poison was spreading at a speed visible to the naked eye. The others watched from afar as he was scared out of his wits. They were truly curious. Tang Zhang and Wu Keyue's eyes flashed at the same time as they ran towards Lei Ming. When they saw Lei Ming's wound, the two of them looked at each other and immediately understood why he was so afraid. It turned out that the weapon was poisoned. If not for the fact that he had cultivated the primal chaos Vajra mantra, he would have been injured by the weapon just now. Then his death would have been too unjust. The true masters of the martial arts world disdained to use poison. After all, it was not a righteous method. Moreover, those masters were very confident in their skills. Why would they use poison and lower their status? However, Lei Ming was different. He was a man of the underworld. He only wanted to survive, so he was willing to do anything. He was probably very proud of himself for smearing poison on his weapon. However, this incident reminded Tang Zhang and Wu that if they met an enemy in the future, they had to be on guard against them using poison. Otherwise, if they failed miserably, they would suffer a huge loss. In addition, Tang Zhang also thought of something. Was there an omnipotent antidote pill in this world that was like a universal key that could remove or suppress most poisons? This would play a huge role in times of need, just like how the pill refined by the Witch Clan elder could suppress the poison of the miasma in the 10,000 huge mountains, thus ensuring that people could pass through the miasma on their own. In the future, I must carefully think about the matter of the antidote elixir. Tang Zhang silently noted this down. Lei Ming saw that the poison in the wound was spreading rapidly, and he knew that he would die soon. Suddenly, a determined look flashed across his face. He grabbed the arm and pulled hard. Puchi! Blood splattered everywhere as he tore off his arm. He was in so much pain that his eyes rolled back. Everyone else's heart tightened. This Lei Ming was really ruthless. If he could be so ruthless to himself, he wouldn't have the slightest bit of mercy to others. Tang Zhang couldn't help but rejoice that he had pretended to be weak and lured the snake out of its hole. Otherwise, if Lei Ming had escaped, Tang Zhang would have to face a lot of trouble in the future. But he originally didn't want to interfere with this poisonous snake. All of this was caused by the Song family's interference. Therefore, Tang Zhang's resentment towards the Song family deepened. He absolutely couldn't let Qin Lao leave. He had to make the Song family pay the price for this operation. The intense pain caused Lei Ming's face to twist. But before he could breathe a sigh of relief, he saw that the blood flowing out of the wound had turned black. This meant that the poison had spread to the internal organs of his body. Suddenly, his face turned ashen. He had endured the pain of losing his arm, but he was a step too late. Immediately, he began to twitch non-stop. He fiercely glared at Tang Zhang and hysterically roared, "Tang Zhang, I won't let you go. I won't let you go even if I become a ghost." Humph. This is you seeking your own death. You only have yourself to blame. If it wasn't for my strength being above others, I would have already died by your hands. Since you're in this line of work, you should understand the principle of the weak being prey to the strong. You took the initiative to start this war, so you should be aware of the consequences. Tang Zhang coldly said, "I refuse to accept this. It was clearly the Song family who wanted to deal with you. They wanted to seize the ordinary balance's territory. Why am I the one who died? Ah." Suddenly, Lei Ming let out a mournful scream. His body stood tall and then suddenly stiffened. It was as if all the strength in his body had been sucked out. He heavily fell to the ground, no longer breathing. Tang Zhang's eyes didn't have the slightest bit of pity. Being merciful to the enemy was being cruel to oneself. Tang Zhang had long since learned this principle. But when he heard Lei Ming's last sentence, his eyelids jumped and he muttered to himself, "So even if I didn't make a move against the ordinary balance courtyard, the Song family had already decided to deal with me. Moreover, they had started with the ordinary balance. If I really let them control the underground world of the ordinary balance, then wouldn't the people related to me be in trouble?" He rejoiced a bit. He had made the first move and gained the upper hand. Then he had seized the initiative step by step, causing the other side to not have time to carry out their plans before they were crushed by him. He believed that after this matter, there wouldn't be any power near the ordinary balance who would dare to stir up trouble in the ordinary balance. It doesn't matter if you don't accept it. Because, From the moment you colluded with the Song family, you were already destined to be cannon fodder.
Tang Zheng calmly said.
Even if the other side had taken the initiative and succeeded, they would definitely have suffered a blow from Tang Zheng. And Lei Ming would have to bear the brunt of Tang Zheng's anger. So from the beginning, Lei Ming had been pushed out by the Song family to die as a shield. But it was a pity that Lei Ming didn't understand Tang Zheng's strength. He was completely blinded by the benefits promised by the Song family. Only then did he attract this disaster. Marshall glanced at the calm and collected Tang Zheng. Her heart was slightly moved. He seemed to be more and more like her master. He killed decisively and was absolutely not merciful to the enemy. She didn't feel afraid. On the contrary, she was somewhat happy and gratified. A tiger father wouldn't have a dog son. If her master knew about this matter, he would definitely be very happy. Of course, her anger towards the Song family was becoming more and more intense. She could hate Tang Zheng and even ruthlessly cut him a few times, but she didn't want others to deal with him. If it was in the past, she would have already used the strength of the martial sect to brutally attack the Song family. But now that the martial sect had fallen apart, she no longer had any power or manpower in her hands. She could only silently remember this matter in her heart and wait for the right time to give the Song family a fatal blow. She had to let the Song family know the consequences of daring to deal with Tang Zheng. The two of them walked back to the front of the policeman. All of them had expressions of fear on their faces. Even though they had seen a lot of things and had even caught a lot of criminals, they still felt fear when facing a person of Tang Zheng's level. Moreover, he seemed to have no fear in his heart. Even though he had killed Lei Ming in front of everyone, he wasn't in a hurry to escape. Instead, he looked at them with interest. Could it be that killing Lei Ming wasn't enough for him and he still wanted to kill all of the witnesses? Everyone's heart skipped a beat. It was as if they had fallen into an ice cave. The coldness was bone-piercing as they looked at Tang Zheng with pale faces. What are you going to do? The police officer's lips were trembling as he stammered and asked fearfully. The trace of luck in his heart had already disappeared. This person even dared to kill Lei Ming, let alone them. Tang Zheng looked at him coldly and said, "If it wasn't for the fact that you're wearing this skin, you would have accompanied him as well. In the future, if you do anything bad, your duty is to protect the common people, not to protect them. Do you understand?" When the other party heard that he could live, he was overjoyed and hurriedly said, "Understood, understood. We will definitely turn over a new leaf and do our duty to protect the common people." Tang Zheng coldly snorted, turned around and left. The Witch Clan warriors also followed, and the two cars sped away like lightning. "Sai, you haven't untied me yet. I can't move." The police officer shouted in panic, but the car had already gone far away. At the intersection of the highway, the two cars stopped. Tang Zheng instructed Tang Zheng to send his clansmen back to the ordinary balance. There were too many people, and the target was too big. If there was a mishap, no matter who lost, Tang Zheng's heart would ache. "Lord Envoy, this place is dangerous. We will stay by your side to protect you," Yi Yuan insisted. Tang Zheng laughed and said, "No one can hurt me in this jade sand. Don't worry. Bring your clansmen back. Lin Hu, arrange for them. These people will be escorting our businesses in the future." Lin Hu still had not recovered from his shock. Even though he had followed Tang Zheng for a few days, he had not experienced many major events, so he did not have a thorough understanding of Tang Zheng's style. After experiencing this matter, he truly understood that Tang Zheng's realm was far from what he could imagine. Many of the rules and difficulties that he thought to be difficult were not even worth mentioning in front of Tang Zheng. "Young Master Tang, Lei Ming is already dead. What are you still doing in Jade Sand?" Lin Hu took a deep breath and asked curiously. "Lei Ming is just a small character. Qin Lao is the big fish. Only by taking care of this big fish will the Song family feel pain. Otherwise, the Song family will still do these small actions in the future," Tang Zheng said with a faint smile. Lin Hu seemed to understand. However, Wu understood. Now that Tang Zheng no longer had the backing of the Ye family, and also had the identity of a cultivator, the Song family was so unbridled. Since he didn't have a backer, then he would be his own backer. After hurting the Song family, he would know that he was afraid and wouldn't do these small actions again. Of course,
The Song family would definitely hate Tang Zheng to death and would definitely think of ways to deal with Tang Zheng. However, the Song family would not play this kind of small trick again, because small tricks were always difficult to use, and would not be able to shake Tang Zheng. Furthermore, small tricks could easily cause Tang Zheng to take revenge, and the Song family had a large business and many people. If Tang Zheng wanted to take revenge, it would be too easy, and the gains would not make up for the losses. Tang Zheng and Dou Wu both understood this logic. Seeing the carriage of people leave, Tang Zheng and Wu returned to the car. Tang Zheng did not let Wu go back, because he knew that the other party would definitely not leave, and he could not order him to leave.
"Where are we going now?" Wu asked.
Lei Ming said that this big fish is hiding at the provincial party secretary's place. Of course, we have to pay a visit to this governor, Tang Zheng said with a smile. He started the car and sped towards his destination. At this moment, Yu Sha was in an uproar. The news of Lei Ming's death was like a spring breeze blowing through the streets and alleys. However, many people did not know the specific details. Only a few related personnel knew. As for the witnesses, they were all ordered to keep their mouths shut. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.